And I need to click there. Hello, and welcome. Yeah, you have caught us. I'm just making sure you're all in the right box. Yes, you are. You have caught us for episode 3, I think, of the Burnt Man mystery here in the world of Call of Cthulhu. Where the campaign is set in Victorian times, 1888, and normally set in London, but unfortunately the investigators, have been taken away from London and are currently at Bargrove Castle Hall, in the middle of Dartmoor. And there's been some strange goings on, which I will tell you about in the synopsis. But before I tell you what's been going on, let's hear from the players, and they can tell you who they are and who their investigator is that they are playing. And we'll go down there, which is Mr. Pickles.
I am Mr. Pickles, and I am playing Melvin Bleeker tonight. He's a librarian who's a little bit rambly, much like myself, but he's mostly interested in astronomy, in the occult, and in looking into these things. Perhaps he has some leave from his library, or he has coworkers covering for him. But he's been pulled into this adventure because he's very interested in solving this issue. And I have a lot of strong opinions from last session. I don't know if I should be giving that away yet, but I definitely think I have an idea of what's going on.
Ooh.
And with that, I'm going to roll the microphone on over to Longshanks EPG.
Thanks, Mr. Pickles. Hi, guys. My name is Longshanks EPG. Tonight I'm playing King, Dr. Gordon King. He is a doctor by trade, an amateur psychologist by interest. He's sort of started off these adventures as a complete skeptic. The cults know it's a guy a guy under a towel or something, or a bed sheet. The occult doesn't exist, and slowly through the past couple of investigations, he's been exposed to some completely out of the ordinary, unexplainable things that can only be the occult, and he's kind of starting to question everything, whilst trying to keep his mental faculties intact. He was approached by out of the blue by a solicitor or barrister, whatever you want to call him, because he started to make a bit of a reputation as an investigator, and slightly above average investigator, and he's been hired to solve this strange mystery, which is just getting weirder and creepier and weirder. And with that, I'm going to pass over to Chugglewugger.
Hello, I am Chugglewugger.
Without a moustache.
Yeah, I've got it here. Sticky stuff on the moustache isn't going to last all adventure. I do have blue tack.
Have you not put it onto a stick?
No, I looked at getting the stick, but you have to buy sort of like 25 of them because they're for weddings.
Just get a chopstick.
No.
Or a pencil. Just stick it onto a...
I've got blue tack. Blue tack will do. I play Willard Peabody, who has a moustache. He's a photographer and a artist. Born into a middle class family, and he is doing his best, his utmost best, to bring himself out of the gutter and become upper class. He's more bothered about his appearance and his social status than he is about solving the mystery. And yes, he's very forthright, and I shall pass on to Inwills.
Excellent, thank you for that. I just had to move your token around so you're in the same order as everybody else. Okay, so welcome. Yeah, the party, as Dr. King was mentioning, have been hired by a solicitor to investigate a haunting. The Lady Allingham, who lives out in Bargrove Hall, out in the middle of Dartmoor, her husband died rather gruesomely, and she believes that he is haunting the hall. So the investigators were sent out to find out what was going on. Now, the important thing to remember is that the Allinghams are under a curse due to way back in history, one of the men, I forget his name, I want to say Marvin, but I don't think that's right. Basically said, he virtually killed a local gypsy boy for stealing a horse. He beat him to death, and the gypsy boy's mother actually cursed the family line, and various people have been dying. However, William actually died from being tied to a standing stone on Dartmoor and being cut open with lots of blood and then burnt. And poor Mr. Bleecker has been having dreams about this for some time. The party have stayed awake all night within Bargrove Hall, and I found that there are indeed some strange goings on, from ripped pictures or paintings to doors opening and windows opening and strange footprints in the snow. After the last adventure, Dr. King unfortunately had gone down with some kind of stomach bug, so was unable to participate. However, the Mr. Peabody and Mr. Bleecker carried on fearless without them, and they actually went down to the local village, Bargrove Village, where they found out a whole lot of really interesting things, more about the curse, about a standing stone that was pulled down but then was back up again, and also whether or not it was actually whether or not the people of the village actually liked Sir William or not, as the case would be. Anyway, they got back to Bargrove Hall in the late hours, just as dusk was falling, and at the same time that happened, there was a light dusting of snow on the ground, and where the housekeeper, Mrs. Beddoes, was quite distraught because there was a young dark-skinned lad, 14-year-old, with unkempt hair at the back of the hall at the kitchen door, and when the party went to see who it was, would you believe, a gypsy boy. And it would seem as if the story is repeating itself. Now guys, I think we left you right at that point, did we not?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to move you across to Bargrove Hall, and if you remember, this is the back door here.
Right.
Yeah, and this was when Howard went to see, because Mrs. Beddoes was in somewhat of a state with this young gypsy guy. Did I give you his name last time?
You did not.
All right. Okay then. So yeah. So for sake of argument, we'll say that his name is Reuben, as in the eldest of the children of Israel. If you know your Joseph and the amazing Technical Dreamcoat. Yeah. So you are all in the kitchen, or in the scullery here. And Mr. Dr. King has joined you once again from upstairs. He's feeling a lot better, and I will hand it over to you guys. And
So are we rolling luck?
Oh yes, thank you. Yeah, Mr. Bleecker and Mr. Peabody, did you use any luck?
I did, yes.
Okay then.
My luck is currently on 26.
Okay then. So yeah, so roll 1d10. 10. Oh, Mr. Peabody.
That's luck for you.
You are certainly lucky. And Mr. Bleecker.
My luck is currently at a 53, so I need no more luck.
No more for you at all, I'm afraid. So yes, thank you for reminding me, Mr. Peabody. I knew I would forget. Yeah. So what would you like to actually
Who's
do?
currently in the scullery?
There's Mrs. Beddoes, who's the house, the sort of like the keeper of the house. She does the cooking and everything like that. Mr. Howard, the butler. All you three and this gypsy who's called Reuben, and he's at the doorway.
Melvin will look at Miss Beddoes and say, I'll pay for some food for the boy.
Mrs. Beddoes turns around and says, "You shouldn't be doing that, sir. Once you give them food, then they come back over and over and over again, and they're always asking for food over and over again. And it's best not to give them anything and then shoo them off." Can you see the picture, by the way?
Yes. Is that the kid?
Yeah.
Way down the bottom, yeah.
This is Reuben. That's what he looks like. And Howard turns around and says, Mr. Bleeker, I think Mrs. Beddoes is quite correct here. We shouldn't encourage riffraff coming to the back door and demanding food. Reuben.
I mean, couldn't you send Mackenzie down to the town, get the constabulary? Surely they're not allowed on the land.
And Reuben sort of goes, "Oi, mister, I wasn't doing anything. I just wanted some food."
Yeah, trespassing is what you're doing.
Oh, well, if I'm not welcome here, then I'll just head off then. And he sort of like turns around and he sort of like starts to stumble off in the snow off away from the back of the house. So he looks like he's going across the ornamental gardens. And if you've got a picture of the map up ahead, up at the top, so he's sort of like heading down to number 4. He's obviously not going to the graveyard, but there's no surrounding fence or anything to demarcate the property of Bargrove Hall. But he seems to be heading away from the back door and sort of like down towards number 4.
Howard.
Oh, yes, sir.
His type before.
Yes, unfortunately, sir, there are some regular gypsies to this location. We have spoken to the local constabulary in Princetown, but unfortunately, apparently they are breaking no laws, would you believe?
Good Lord. And whereabouts do they stay? Camped out, are they?
I am sorry, sir. I'm not too sure. I could probably ask Mackenzie to have a look around in the morning if that's suitable, sir.
Normally come up here for food, do they? Though. Not much else.
I would say that they are somewhat of a regular occurrence. Either they want food or they'll be selling clothes pegs or something similar.
But nothing goes missing, I take it.
No, sir, we never allow them into the actual premises.
It seems a bit weird that they would come all the way up here. Not much to do.
Well, yes, sir.
Not many pegs. Been down to the village earlier on.
I'm not too sure, sir, why. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, I totally agree with you, sir. Yes. Mrs. Meadows sort of like turns around to you all and sort of like says, "Can you leave my scullery? I've got dinner to prepare."
Yes. Yes.
And she sort of like ushers you out, and Howard sort of like steps back and signals to the door to allow you to go through first, and you congregate once more out in number 6, which is the entrance hall, if you remember.
Strange going on. Gypsies. Well, it was something to do with the original thing, weren't they? Gypsy boy.
Yes. How are you feeling though, Doctor? Better, hopefully. Yes,
much better. A good pot of peppermint tea seems to have sorted everything out.
Once it's out of the system, that's all you need. Get it out of the system, you'll feel fine after that.
Quite.
There is a chance it could have to do with our discoveries, Mr. Peabody.
What, Dr. King's illness? I thought it was the quail.
It's possible, but then wouldn't we have all gotten sick as well?
It might have just been something didn't agree with me in particular.
You think he was poisoned?
I think so, in a sense. It's at this point.
So we're looking at one of the servers then.
Yes, Mr. Bleeker, is there something you want to do?
I wanted to share the fairies handout. If I had that from like a book, or if I'm just telling the stories.
Yeah, so everybody has access to that.
I'm specifically referencing it here.
Yeah.
I believe that the problem we're having has something to do with this. If you look closely, pixies in this text, native to Dartmoor, are similar to brownies. And if you look, the brownies and the pixies seem to be doing everything that we're seeing here. The tangled manes of the horses, classic pixies. Somebody is imitating very accurately.
That must be a quote, mustn't it? Plaiting off the horse's mane, typical pixies.
I mean, could it be somebody who's read this text and just thought, well, I'll make it look like pixies, bit of folklore, hogwash.
But who would be doing that?
Well, maybe somebody in the house, in the manor, trying to alienate.
Could be, or it could be one of the villagers, angry. Good Dr. King, we went to town yesterday, and
today,
yeah, it's been a long day.
Yeah.
We found that the townsfolk didn't really hate the other brothers. They just hated the guy we're looking into. He moved a big fairy rock. They didn't like it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the villagers have had it too easy for too long. Maybe he's decided that he was going to change all the barren fields into ones that would actually make money for his family.
That's true. If the stone is on his land, then he should be able to remove it. But then, if there's some significance to the stone, perhaps he should have left it in place. I don't know.
Oh, there is very much significance to the stone. It's let's see, looking through my paperwork, it's like a doorway. The pixies come out and scream and dance in the night and ride horses and whatnot. It's something like sacred.
So what are you suggesting, Bleeker?
I don't know. Either there's something horrible going on, or somebody's trying to make it look like there is.
I mean, from my understanding, we were hired to prove or disprove that it's not Lord Bargrove that's causing all this tomfoolery.
Lord Bargrove's dead, though. He could be causing any tomfoolery.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we know, that he's dead. We know that it's not him doing it. But unfortunately, Lady Allingham wants proof.
Wants proof that her husband is dead, or wants proof that her husband is not doing it?
No, go on, man. You're not following what's happening.
Just out of interest, the original job was, as stated, was not entirely happy with the police investigation into her husband's murder and wishes to hire competent professionals such as yourselves to join in the search for St. William's killer. Then the lawyer, the solicitor, got quite sort of like uneasy when he mentioned that he believes that her Lady Allingham's late husband was ghost is haunting, the investigators would be hired to ascertain whether or not this is so, and if so, to lay St William's spirit to rest. And you are getting paid £10 a week for it.
So Lady Allingham is assuming that all this goings on in the house is due to her late husband, which obviously is not going to be the case. All we need to do is to catch the culprit, whoever's doing it, in the act, and then well, back to London.
So what's the plan then? Because currently you all sort of like stood round in a huddle in the entrance hall discussing this. Do you have a plan of action, anything that you would like to do? Or you probably got about 2 hours before supper is served in number 8 in the dining room.
We were going to interview more servants after we got back from our town visit, weren't we? That was our original plan.
Yeah.
Have we been made aware by Dr. King of what happened on his nightly?
No, this is the first time that you've met up with Dr. King since he's been poorly.
Somebody slashed the painting of the late Lord here while I was on watch. Just went in and scratched the painting.
Would you like to adjourn to the parlour in order to discuss this further, or are you quite happy discussing it in the entrance hall?
In the entrance hall, no. Into the parlour.
Yeah, so you can either go to the parlour, or you could go to the library 27 if you prefer, but the parlour is absolutely fine. Yeah, so when you get in there, you notice that because it's getting dark, all the shutters are up and protecting the windows. You also notice that the painting that was above the mantelpiece is no longer there. It looks like it's been removed throughout the day. If you remember, it was down at one side, and you can definitely look up, and due to this, that the light stain, as I would call it, on the wallpaper, on the flux wallpaper, you can almost like see where it would have been. And apart from that, the broken vase that was on the floor, obviously that's all been swept up, and the room looks almost back to normal. There's no sign of the red liquid that you saw, Mr. Bleecker, at all. And there is a fire going in the fireplace, warming up the parlour. And there's some of those high back chairs that you're quite used to enjoying in the Carlton Club while you're in London. So you probably take one of those each and settle down and to either discuss it further or to do another plan of action. What would you like to do?
Could be something to do with the gypsies. Don't you think?
Possibly, unless there was one in the house last night. I distinctly remember hearing noises coming from the cellar during my watch.
Shutter open, I did. Bare feet, footprints outside, child, probably the boys who was in earlier on, probably came to steal something.
Could have done it. Well, there was definitely noises coming down from the cellar.
Mr. Peabody, you think the footprints, thinking back over when you saw the footprints, because of course they've been gone for some time, you don't think they were that big. It was a lot more sort of like child size. Reuben is about 14 years old, so, and he stands about 6 foot. They don't look like that big. It looks definitely a small. Definitely, like you said before, a child, but definitely not Reuben's. You don't think?
Into horses, though, aren't they? Gypsies?
Only the pictures I've seen of them, and the gypsies that occasionally come through in the caravans and the circuses in London. Yes, but Might be different with rural gypsies.
Probably know how to plait a mane or two.
Oh yeah, they always used to put ribbons in the ones in the circus.
So, gypsy then. Messing about.
But did we see many gypsies today, Mr. Peabody?
Well, no, but... Well, just because we didn't see them doesn't mean that they're not bringing about all this foolhardy, does it? Better suggestion, Bleecker?
Did Bleecker see any gypsies in the pub?
No. No gypsies that you would recognise as gypsies all the time you've been here. Nothing at all. There's Mr. Bleecker, does roll an idea roll for me, please. If that's this your normal intelligence one. You sort of like think for a while, and then you're not too sure if it was gypsies doing the plaiting of the horse's mane. To what end would that be? And was it also gypsies that did the picture and everything like that? Or you sort of like start to think, is there more than one thing happening, or are all the occurrences actually together? Mr. Bleecker is likely to share that information with you all, so you can all be aware of that.
A child couldn't flip that painting, of course.
What about if the child has managed to get in, and then, I don't know, he's probably got his father and several of his brothers, probably an uncle.
No. I have excellent ears. I would have heard those many footsteps. They would have disturbed me greatly. All I heard was a vase breaking, and I came in and it was gouged with a long knife.
Surely they would have, if there was that many of them, they would have done more than slash a painting and smash a vase. They probably would have they would have walked, taken the silverware or something more valuable, surely.
So what are we saying?
I think that we need to test multiple things. We need to go and interview the rest of the servants. Then we need to test tonight, sprinkling maybe some flour or something to test for foot traffic in the night, and place a bowl of cream out, perhaps in the cellar or somewhere where we can watch it. Test for that, and stand watch again, perhaps.
I was thinking of having a word with Mackenzie, getting a gun and waiting in the stable until they showed up.
Well,
a couple warning shots over the head. Soon send them scarpering.
If you'd like to observe the stables, filthy stables, Mr. Peabody, then go right ahead.
We are being paid to do a job.
Yes, but those stables are so filthy.
No, there could be. I hate to say it, but there could be something more than gypsies going on here, based from what we've seen.
Is it?
Well, speak up, man. What?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it might, as it's been mentioned, that the footsteps seem to be, well, one set of footsteps. I only heard one set of footsteps leading down to the cellar. The footsteps seem to have been of a smaller person than the gypsy lad that we've just seen.
I think this is the first time that you've mentioned the cellar. Heard footsteps going down there.
I did, yes. I've mentioned it a couple of times, but
if you
I think it's worth exploring.
If you wish to interview any of the servants, like you did mention, then you've probably now got like an hour and a half before lunch. You could definitely Howard would be available, the butler. Some of the scullery maids would probably be available as well. Mrs. Beddoes, you probably think better than interrupting her once she's cooking the main meal of the day. But, I would take a suitable fast talk or persuasion role to listen in or ask her questions while she's actually doing the work.
Talk to the hired help, Bleeker. Probably best to you. Tend to tell me what I want to hear, not what I want to know.
I suppose.
Okay, so
I think I might go and have a look at the cellar.
Yes, I think I might join you, Peabody.
Okay then, so Mr. Peabody and Mr. King, you're heading off down into the cellar. Well, I've revealed the cellar for you. You can see it now. Down at the bottom left, you should be able to see it. Please remember it's not drawn to scale down there, but you can see there's a number of adjoining rooms, or there's no doors or anything like that. There is a coal chute that is the coals delivered by wagon and sort of like put down there, and really and truly the whole sort of like cellar is given over to various containers of wine and food stuff, and also the odd thing that you probably perceive as there's more candles down here, but also things probably reminiscent of summer. In the sense that there's a seating, a set of chairs and parasols that would actually go outside probably during the summer months, and also like a croquet set and things like that. But apart from that, it looks out. Just both of you just roll a spot hidden for me while you're down there.
One of the things that Peabody wants to be looking for, especially coming from the coal chute area, is for any footsteps leading. If anybody had used the coal chute as a way of getting into the
footprints
without coming in.
Okay, so roll your spot hidden.
I'm going to use, Dr. King will use 6 points of luck.
Yeah, cross them off. Yeah, so there seems to be numerous footprints down here. They seem to be where people have been shoveling the coal into containers, into coal buckets, and transporting it upstairs. But there doesn't look like to be any small child's footprints down here at all. All of them seem to be probably booted of various sizes, so probably from the maids, or probably not Howard's because he's a little bit higher status than to actually shovel coal around. Mr. Bleeker, who would you like to interview first?
Let's go with Howard.
Yeah, so Howard is obviously, he's not laying the table, he's in the dining room and he's supervising the scullery maid, sort of like, as they lay the table. And as you sort of like appear at the door, he says, "I'm sorry, sir, supper is not ready yet. There will be a bell rung if needed."
Well, that's good information to have, but that's not why I'm here. I had a couple questions for you, perhaps some of your scullery maids, about the situation in and around Fargo Hall.
Yes, I don't think. He says, let's step out into the hall. He says the scullery maids are somewhat accustomed to gossip, and I wouldn't want them getting the wrong idea. Yes, how can I help you, sir?
I had just a couple questions after going into town today and all. I guess the first was, I was curious how you felt about Sir William's decision.
Decision for
that big rock out in the field, Hobbs Field.
Yes, sir. I think Sir William had a very good reason I'm sure he had a very good reason to remove the stone, and bringing in outsiders was probably the best way to do that, due to the superstition of the villagers.
Do you know offhand about how many outsiders needed to move that big of a rock?
I think that there was a total of 6 or 8, sir.
That's quite a few people. I could see how a number of villagers
They are also responsible for other jobs around the estate, sir.
Of course. What would you know about the local beliefs on sorry, Howard, but fairies?
Oh, yes, sir. Pure myth and legend, I'm sure. Something that will probably keep the children in order late at night.
I suppose, yeah. That's what I was thinking as well. There's no way that fairies could be out and about causing trouble.
May I ask, sir, are you any closer to solving who actually killed Sir William, or whether or not it is Sir William that is haunting the premises?
Well, hauntings are just in books, but we're getting closer. We're gathering more information, my cohorts and myself. I'm
pleased to hear that. Sorry, sir. I was just reflecting her ladyship's own views on the matter. Yes. I am pleased that progress is being made. Hopefully, we will be able to get back to our somewhat normal way of life here in Dartmoor as soon as possible.
Well, hopefully, indeed. But have you witnessed any of this haunting? Do you believe there is any haunting?
And I think, sir, there are some very strange goings on in the hall, and I am sure men of your expertise and talents will be able to both find the solution and hopefully rectify it within the week, I hope.
Hopefully, indeed. That's about all I had for you. But is there any chance I could talk with one or more of the scullery maids, see if they've witnessed anything?
Yes, sir. I will get. And as he sort of like looks around to see who's around, there's a very heavy knocking on the door, and Howard sort of says, "Excuse me, sir," and goes and opens the door, and there appears to be a somewhat snow-covered constable there. You're not aware of any police presence in Bargrove at all, and it looks like they have some kind of carriage, and it looks like there's probably 2 constables, one driving the carriage and the other one who's just got off. And you notice, Mr. Bleecker, that they have quite a dusting of snow on them. And Howard sort of says, "Hello, Constable. Unfortunately, her ladyship is indisposed at the present moment in time." And the constable sort of like turns around and says, no matter. I just came to tell you to make sure your doors and windows are shut tight tonight." "Oh yes, sir, they are. Most of nights they are shut and firmly. I see to that myself." "Yes, well, I have to inform you, and please pass it on to her ladyship, that there has been a disturbance at the local prison, and there has been, shall I say, an escapee. We're trying to track him down. I'm sure we'll get him before nightfall." And he sort of like looks outside and realizes that nightfall has happened, and he says, "By early morning, but please be very vigilant throughout the night. He is somewhat a dangerous convict, and he's not to be approached on any reason at all." And Howard says, yes, Constable, I will pass on the message to her ladyship as soon as she comes down for dinner. And the constable goes, "Yes, well, thank you, Howard. Yes, remember, doors and windows shut tight, please." And they sort of like go, and he sort of like closes the door. and he starts to walk away, and then suddenly remembers, comes down, and he sort of like shunts 2 bolts across the door, and then he turns to you, Mr. Bleeker, and he says, I will send Mary to you. Whereabouts will you be, sir?
How about the trophy room?
Oh, okay, sir. Yes. Yes. And he says, I will send Mary along forthwith. And so you can head off to number 16. And you notice, you sort of like get there, and there's some candles lit, some oil lamps lit. And it's almost like 10 or 15 minutes later, there's sort of like this timid knock on the door, and then nothing.
Come in.
And the door handle seems to turn one way and then turn the other way, as if the person on the opposite side is having some problem actually figuring out how to open this door. And she almost like falls in, and she's goes, "Oh, sorry, sir, sorry," like this, and she sort of like curtsies a few times, and then she sort of like looks down at her feet and sort of says, "Mr. Howard said that you needed to see me, sir."
Yes, I just had a few questions. Nothing too terrifying. Mostly in and around this alleged haunting. Have you seen anything? Have any of the rest of the maids heard anything? What do you know?
She sort of like looks around, and her eyes sort of like come up to meet yours, Mr. Bleeker, and then she seems somewhat distracted, and she suddenly starts looking around the trophy room, and her eyes get wider and wider, and she just goes, "Wow, I can see why we're not allowed in here. Wow, is that really a stag, do you think?"
Probably.
Sorry, sir, what was the question?
The haunting.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Very mysterious. Things moved. Things moved around. Strange noises in the house. I must admit, I do feel quite almost like I'm frightened living up in the attic.
Are there anything? Is anything ever moved around in the attic, like down?
No, sir. It seems to be one of the safest places to be, but there were several harsh words said to me after they found that some of the cinders from the fire had been knocked out all over the so-called Persian rug, sir. I got into quite a bit of trouble at the start of it.
I see. So the attic isn't affected. What about the cellars?
What about the cellars, sir?
Are they safe from these disturbances as well?
I don't go down the cellars, sir. Mrs. Meadows has said to me that I'm so clumsy I'll probably fall down the stairs if I try.
She's a funny lady.
Who, Mrs. Meadows?
Yes.
Yes, I wouldn't say that to her, sir, in her presence. She could be quite swift with the rolling pin.
I believe it. How do you feel about Sir William and his decision?
What decision was this, sir?
The decision with the great rock in the field, Hobbs Field?
I'm sorry, sir. I just almost like I cleaned the silver and laid the table. I'm not. I don't actually get involved in the decisions to run the estate.
That's good. That's probably wisest, Mary. I just have one more question.
Yes, sir.
How do you feel about the local beliefs? Fairies.
Oh, my mum used to tell me if I didn't go to sleep quick enough, they would come and plait my hair and pluck my eyes out.
What did she call them? Fairies? Did she have other words for them?
I think she had other words for them, sir, but I don't feel that I should really say them in front of you, if you know what I mean, sir.
I'm not sure I do.
Well, they were rather vulgar, sir.
Right. There's no need to share that then.
No.
I'm gonna pull out the paper with the symbols that we got. Does this make any sense to you, Mary?
No, sir. I'm not too sure what they are. I'm not very good with me letters, sir.
That's okay. They're not letters. But I found some.
My mum used to read to me when I was little, but I never got round to actually learning my letters or my numbers, sir. I can polish a good silver spoon, though.
Right, I believe it. I've used enough of your time. You are free to go.
Thank
do
you.
what
Thank
you
you,
do.
sir. Thank you, sir. And she gets to the door and she pauses somewhat. And she sort of like turns around and says, "Sir, may I ask you a question, sir?"
If you must.
And she sort of like looks around as if to think, is anybody listening in? And she says, "Do you think her ladyship's going mad? I know I shouldn't speak of such things, but we are all worried in the scullery whether or not she's almost like going insane."
I'm sure it's just grief, and settling this matter will hopefully stabilize her emotions.
That's good to know, sir. Thank you. So I better get off and finish laying the table, or otherwise Mr. Howard might be displeased. And she sort of like trots off, and she sort of like backs away out of the trophy room and shuts the door behind her. And just as this all comes to the end, Mr. Peabody and Dr. King, you come up from the cellar, and Mrs. Meadows gives you a rather harsh stare, a stern stare, as you come up, as if to say, "Get out my areas of this room. I'm trying to make dinner." And yeah, so you can head back up to the parlour, and we will assume that Mr. Bleecker has shared everything with each other, so you are aware of the conversations that we've had. So is there anything else that you would like to do? You notice that all the doors and all the windows are now shuttered for the night. The fire's been stoked up a bit, so there's some warmth in this room. And it seems that the majority of the activity of the house is sort of like in 12 and 11 and 12 in the scullery and the kitchen, and obviously the creation of the evening meal and the laying of the table. You've got about an hour 45 minutes before supper will be served.
From looking around the downstairs that we've done, the ground floor, has there been any signs of firearms at all? Like a gun cabinet or anything like that, which may house.
Yeah, there was a couple of rifles and a revolver in a cabinet, a glass case cabinet in the trophy room, and there was obviously some kind of whether or not it was real guns, or whether or not there was a sort of like show guns, you're not too sure, but they seem to be a couple of rifles and a handgun, some kind of revolver in the trophy room,
Okay, so at some point Peabody wants to go and have a look at those and see whether or not the rifles are real, and if so, if there's stuff to fire them as well.
Yeah, so roll your firearms skill. Yeah, they seem to be real. They obviously are kept very meticulously clean. You're not too sure that they've been fired recently at all, and there do seem to be some bullets fought in boxes for both the rifles and the revolver.
Okay, so after doing that, he's going to go back and say, "Disturbing news about this escaped convict."
Indeed.
Quite, yes. Best keep a sharp eye, make sure, as the policeman advised, the doors and windows are shut, and hopefully the ghost will not, or whatever it is, will not open them again tonight.
The ghost. Oh, Dr. King.
Tell me, King, Lady Allingham
Yes.
seems a bit on edge.
Well, she has just recently lost her husband in a rather brutal way. Grief does do strange. It's documented that grief does do strange things to the survivors' minds.
But with all this seeing ghosts or believing that her husband is still alive.
Well, it might be the effect is given off as a ghost. I'm just using ghost as a terminology at the moment because, I mean, it could be. I doubt it.
I was thinking more medical terms, Doctor. Could she have been prescribed something that might be messing with her mind? Hallucinations?
There are a few drugs and.
Sorry, Dr. King, just roll your medicine roll because I'll provide you with the information. Like you say, there's various sort of like remedies. Most of them are quite horrific, including the administration of mercury, which is extremely poisonous, as we know now. Roll your psychology roll. Yeah, your opinion, your professional opinion of Lady Allingham is that, like you were telling Mr. Peabody, she's probably taken the grief of her husband quite badly, and the hauntings are almost like compounding her mental state of mind. But you think she's not insane. She's probably suffering a lot with grief, and whether or not the hauntings, etc., and not knowing who killed her husband is almost like compounding that. You probably think that you guys were her last hope, and almost like importing you in from London would give almost like a fresh view on the investigation. You do think it probably wouldn't take much to knock her over the edge, so to speak.
Did William Bargrove have his own study, or was everything carried out within the library? Do we know?
It was there wasn't a separate study for him. It was the rooms are as described, so he probably did some work in the library or even in the parlour where you are now.
Maybe we could find some of his writings during the time leading up to his death in the library.
Well, must have had plans. What he was doing with the land.
There must be some ledgers somewhere, in the accounts ledgers, or some sort of, as you were saying, Peabody, some sort of plans that he'd drawn up to say what he was going to use that field for.
But what you were saying, Bleak, the other two brothers, well, rather liked within the village.
Indeed.
But it doesn't seem like they went around ripping down large stones either. Probably has something to do with his death.
Yes. It could be that, they just...
So I was just looking at Longshanks, how he sort of like almost like made it try to look like he wasn't getting his phone and having a look at his WhatsApp.
The bell is ringing for evening meal.
Well, let's get off to supper after this day.
Okay, so the usual people are at supper. There's Lady Allingham, and then there's Madame Ducray and Ursula and yourselves, and of course there's Howard overseeing the feeding, the serving of the food. Is there anything that you would like to do specifically at evening mealtime, or because if not, we can just sort of like move on through it.
Peabody would rather like to try to strike a conversation with Ursula, the daughter. Going down the route of, did you have a nice walk? And then
you sort of like ask her questions like, did you have a nice walk? And she answers you very matter of fact, and she sort of like says, yes, I did, thank you, sir. And
excellent. Must be pretty lonely up here. Do you have any friends to play with?
And when you start to almost like get to the stage that you're asking questions that are probably not suitable, or Lady Allingham sort of like steps in and sort of like says, I'm sorry, Mr. Peabody, I don't think that is suitable questions at the dining table. And she obviously, and Ursula obviously looks at her mom and then looks back at you, and this sort of like carries on eating. So they don't let the conversation go off. If you want to, you figure that if you want to actually question Ursula, probably the best time to do it would be in the upstairs when she's with Madame Ducray. But Lady Allingham seems very almost like possessive and almost like dominant over her daughter. And even the daughter, when she answers your questions, Mr. Peabody, she does so very matter of fact like and very to the point. So if you said, have you had a nice walk, she says, yes, thank you for asking.
Was her demeanour completely different from the first time we met her then?
Roll your psychology roll.
I was going more of because first time we met her, she sort of like she sort of like ran in and she sort of like hugged her mom and sort of like asked whether or not Daddy would be joining.
Yeah. So roll you is that your roll your psychology? Yeah. You think that her general movement, she's not as boisterous as she was in the first instance, but you're not too sure why that might be.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Nothing else to ask them.
Okay. Anything else that you would like to do at dinner? No. Okay then.
Particularly, no.
Actually, yeah, no.
So dinner is served, and then you can accompany yourselves. Lady Allingham goes straight upstairs, as does Madame Ducray and Ursula. They sort of like go off, and you're left drinking a good standard of port in the parlour where you were before. You can hear that there's a bit of a gale striking up outside. It doesn't sound to be raining, but there definitely seems to be some kind of a heavy wind brewing. You can hear it sort of like whistling through the shutters, and even across the top of the chimney stack, it makes the flames flicker in the fireplace. So is there anything that you would like to do before heading off to bed?
Yeah, once supper's finished, Peabody wants to go to the library. He wants to look for something like a writing desk or a bureau, anything like that, and see whether or not he can find any recent correspondences or anything like that.
Okay, roll your library use.
I'm going to use 8 points of luck.
Yeah, I mean there's various correspondence in there. There's various letters that have obviously been sent to people in London, to their solicitors. There's also various accounts obviously kept up to date by either Howard or Lady Allingham herself, and there's loads of stuff like that there, as well as quite a well-stocked library that you found beforehand.
Okay, so the accounts of the estate, does it show that the estate's in good stead financially?
Do you have any skill in accounting or anything like that?
I think everybody has a skill in accounting. Shall I roll it?
Oh no. Have you put anything in it?
No. Is it a positive or negative number at the bottom?
Yeah. Well. Okay then. It's positive. Yeah.
Right.
So I was going to ask you to roll a knowledge roll to see, or an education roll to see whether or not you can understand it. But if that's all you were looking for, then yeah, it's definitely the estate seems to be in good health.
Right. Okay. And is there any indication of with the stuff that's there, the information that's there on what he might have been planning on doing with the land? Does it?
I think it. Yeah. You mean Hobbs Field?
No. Well, is it only Hobbs Field, or is he looking at changing a whole load of the land into?
Well, he's looking as if to expand the grounds of the mansion. I mean, the manor, as you, I think you actually stated earlier on, it does belong to the manor. It belongs to Bargrove Hall. Even Bargrove Village technically belongs to the hall, and you can, looking through your library roll, they seem to be almost like wanting to bring in more income, probably not to actually run the house. It doesn't look like it's in desperate measures or anything like that, more maybe just to satisfy greed, or it looks like they're trying to convert areas around either for arable farming purposes or for keeping livestock on it, but to actually to get some sort of additional income. But like I say, it's not because Bargrove Hall is falling apart. It just looks like a typical upper class people wanting more
money.
Money. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. That's fine. That's what Peabody will be doing for the first bit.
Okay, anybody else wish to do anything else?
Yes.
Yeah, cool. What would you like to do?
Like to hopefully get Dr. King to follow me. I want to go interview Madame Ducray and Ursula.
Yeah,
That's what I was going to do.
yeah. You'll probably have to wait till morning, because at this time of night, Ursula will be getting changed ready for bed. Straight after supper, and then and if you remember, Madame Ducray's room is number 20. Yeah. Sorry, 21 is her room. You by all means, you'll probably be able to have a chat with Madame Ducray after she's put Ursula to bed, if that's what you would like to do. So 20, just to remind you, is the school room. 19 is Ursula's room, and then number 21 is the nanny's room, is Madame Ducray's room, and then number 22 is the room that Lady Allingham has moved into. If you remember, she did used to be in 18, but now she looks like she's moved out, because obviously that's been haunted by Sir William.
Of course. I'll still put in a request for a bit of her time if she's available at that point.
Yeah, by all means. What sort of information would you like to get? Are you asking her about?
Well, Dr. King's mainly going to be focusing on Ursula. So, like, is she sleeping well? Does she suffer from night terrors or particularly bad nightmares since the passings, or like how she seems to be acting since?
Yeah, and Madame Ducray almost like gets quite concerned about this, and sort of like, and she's sort of like saying things like, "No, not at all. No, Doctor. Sorry, Doctor. What are you concerned about? Ursula's safety or her mental well-being?"
Well, not directly, but
you are asking questions like
the death of a father is concerning.
She appears to be coping quite admirably with it.
Well, that's good to know. How
does she have any imaginary friends?
Well, what a very peculiar question, Mr. Bleeker. I would probably say Roll your fast talk.
I would love to. Pow, pow. Let's see, fast talk. Pow, pow.
Yeah, she sort of like says, Mr. Bleeker, that's a very unusual question. Ursula seems to be coping very well with something that must be quite a traumatic response. She is maintaining a good health level of healthiness, and I would hasten to say, I have been nanny to several student pupils and children, and I would say many of them, if not all, have imaginary friends.
True. I was just curious if she had been talking with people who aren't there, or if she'd been perhaps being pinched.
Pinched, sir?
Yes, I've been reading into some books, and it's just a hypothesis, Madame Ducray. I mean, if she hasn't been complaining of these things, then it's all good, correct?
Yes, sir. I am aware that Lady Allingham said I should be at your disposal, but I do find the questions that you are asking quite unusual.
Well, these are unusual circumstances, and we're trying to rule out all. Well,
I can reassure you, sir, that Ursula is quite well.
That is good because, as I'm sure you know, children can be quite sensitive in these sorts of matters.
And extremely resilient, good doctor.
And in some cases, they can be extremely resilient as well.
Are you implying that Ursula is not of sound mind?
Not at all. I was.
I'm glad to hear it.
Questions to be able to make that decision.
Yes.
It seems like, from what I've observed, and from what you can tell me, that she seems to be coping admirably with the awful situation that she's found herself in.
Yes. Was there anything else, sir, that you would like to question me about?
Yes. Now that we've questioned you about Ursula, we were curious if you had been seeing any of these disturbances yourself.
As in?
The haunting. Have you seen anything move? Have you heard any noises prior to the move?
Sir, I think you should understand that Lady Allingham has taken her death of her husband far worse than young Ursula. And I think many of her findings or beliefs might actually be put down to somewhat unfortunate state of mind. Surely you're not implying, Mr. Bleeker and Doctor, that Bargrove Hall is actually haunted?
Oh, Madame Ducray, of course not.
I'm pleased to hear this.
I'm trying to find, though, a reason. See, because I didn't hear much noise, and I've got fantastic ears. I can hear when people are stalking down the aisles of my library. And if there were people entering the house, the most plausible explanation of why things would be moved.
You
think I'm just trying to figure out how.
You think we have intruders within the house?
Do you think that we would have ghosts? We are trying to solve this, and I believe it has.
I would. I think if you suspect burglars and thieves, then informing Mr. Howard is probably your best course of action. I will make sure that the doors are firmly locked tonight.
Excellent. Make sure to double check as well.
Yes. Yes, thank you, sir.
That's about all I had for questioning, unless you had more, Dr. King.
No, that's everything I can think of. Thank you very much for your time. And
yes, thank you, sirs. And sleep well.
Yes, you too.
And she sort of like goes back into a room, and you hear the definite turn of a key in the lock, and a slight check of shaking of the door just to make sure that it's firmly locked. Yeah, and so you meet back up in the parlour.
I had a look in the library. I have. Well, there don't seem to be any financial difficulty. It just looks like they're, well, like any proper well-to-do family should do, trying to increase their funds.
But then, if they didn't need the money, why would they push so hard to move that important rock?
Everybody needs money.
Yeah, I suppose, but
Money makes money. That's how the world is, Bleaker. If you have money, you want more money. Money,
Yes.
money.
yeah, that's
Probably like you and books. Probably started off with one, didn't you? How many have you got now?
more than one.
Yes, just like money.
Is there anything else you would like to do before retiring for the night?
Yes.
Is the plan to keep watch tonight like you did last night, or is the plan to do something different tonight?
I was thinking, maybe if I could get a good view of the stables, maybe from the trophy room, give a good view, wouldn't it?
It would.
Can't plait a horse's hair in the dark, can you? Gonna need a light. See the torchlight? Go and have a word with the ruffians.
Just be mindful that there are potentially escaped convicts in the area as well. Peabody.
Well,
Yeah. So if you were in the if you were in the trophy room and you took down the shutters of the window on the south, you'll be able to see out into the stables. If any light was produced or anything like that, yeah, that would be possible. So,
What do you
Mr. Peabody, is there a plan that you're staying there all night, or are you all sort of like taking it in turns to sort of like be vigilant in that room to keep an eye on the stables all night? Or is there something else that you would like to do?
I think that would probably be a good place to. Are there any sort of like comfy chairs in there? Is there a chair that somebody else could probably sleep on in between?
If somebody's planning on sleeping there, then you wouldn't get a good night's sleep. But I mean, if you want two people to stay awake in there, then that would be absolutely, possible. It's whether or not you want to be by yourselves.
Does anybody have any other plans that they want to do?
Yes.
No, so Dr. King will probably join you.
Or staying awake, Mr. Pickles.
The only thing I want to do is I want to get.
You mentioned putting something out for the cat.
Yeah, get some milk or cream to put in a bowl in room 12. Was something I want to do before we do our watches. Otherwise, I'm. Melvin wants to sleep in a bed though. He had nightmares and kind of wants to get a good night's sleep.
Okay then, so yes, Mr. Bleaker, you can put something out, milk or cream out on a saucer in the scullery, which is in room 12, and then you can retire to your bedroom for a good night's sleep.
Is there anything a bit more substantial than candles? Is there any lanterns that the
Probably some kind of gas lamp that you can, or lantern that you can have on if you wish.
Yeah, so we'll try to find a gas lamp for tonight. So the plan is to, as far as Peabody's concerned, he wants to keep a vigilant on the downstairs tonight. So he's going to, from his point of view, to plait a horse's hair, it's going to take sort of like a fairly long time. So every so often he'll have a look out the shutters towards the stable, and then when he's not doing that, he wants to sort of like go out, make sure that the front door's still.
And are you planning on having no sleep all night?
Well, I think Dr. King was.
Dr. King will either join or take over the watch partway through, or something like that.
So we'll do it we'll do it half and half.
Okay then. So I'll put Mr. King to bed so the plan is then that you're going to like patrol around the ground floor. Is that what?
Well, yeah. I mean, he's very much aware that, you know, as well as everything that's is going on, there's also an escaped convict around, so he does think it's his duty to make sure that everybody is.
Yeah, and the shutters are down off the window, so there is the glow of your candle. Your lantern, you know, sort of like permeating out into the darkness.
Well, that's why he wanted more of a lantern, so that he could turn it down when the shutters, when he opens it, to have a look out towards the stable.
Oh, yeah, that's absolutely fine.
If he any light, then he'll close it. He'll turn the shutter up, but he also wants to take one of the. He wants to take one of the rifles out of the cabinet and make sure it's loaded.
So you're taking out one of Sir William's rifles and loading them up, yeah?
Just one of them, yeah.
Yeah, and are you carrying this around with you, or?
No, not at the moment. But once it's loaded, he's gonna put it back in, so he knows which one's the loaded one if he needs to grab it.
Okay then, so obviously Mr. Peabody and Dr. King head off to bed, and Mr. Bleeker and Dr. King head off to bed. Mr. Peabody, you're awake, and you've got your lantern, and you're sat in the trophy room. You keep an eye out outside, but one thing that you do notice is that the snow is building up. Beforehand there was quite a light dusting of it. You now notice that there's quite a significant layer of snow accumulating around the hall, i.e. Bargrove Hall, not the hallway, and that seems to be with the wind, it seems to be blowing it up into sort of like drifts in certain places up against walls, etc. It doesn't look like it's a good night to be out at all, especially in the middle of Dartmoor in snowy, wet weather. And you almost like feel that, you know, you have to keep one of the fires going just to keep warm. It's an old building, Bargrove Hall, and the ice cold wind is definitely, you know, shooting through and making those.
Get his outside coat as well from Seven, just to.
Yeah, so you put your outdoor coat on, and you hear various noises of the creaking old building. Roll me a listen roll. Yeah, well, when you're going on one of your patrols around the lower floor, you actually get over to the dining room here, when you can hear something coming from where you think is probably the library. It almost like sounds as if somebody's tipping over books. And sort of like you can hear the books, they occasionally sort of like falling to the floor, and they're quite heavy books, and sort of like the ruffling of paper, as if somebody or some things are sort of like scattering them all over the place.
He'll go to the fireplace in the parlour, and it's like a thing with a poker in or something that he can pick up.
Yeah, you can have a poker. That's absolutely fine. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he'll, as quietly as he can, he shall go to the door, and just listen to see whether or not he can hear anything. Yeah,
it's not as noticeable as before. It seems to almost like slow down in its aggressiveness. But you could definitely sort of like hear something like this, sort of like as if there's books or paper being moved around.
Okay, so he's very carefully going to put the rest of the poker up at the corner of the door, so that it doesn't fall over. And then he's going to grab the handle, push the door, and then he wants to grab the poker with that hand, and with the lantern he wants to go in brandishing the poker.
Okay, so quite aggressively and quite
aggressively, yeah, as if to frighten the ruffian who's there stealing.
Yeah, so you sort of like open the door, grab the poker, and sort of like go in there with lantern held high and brandishing the poker. And there seems to be somewhat a kerfuffle as you enter, and even when you shine up the lantern, you actually notice that there's actually a piece of paper that is still sort of like settling down onto the table. And
he probably goes in and sort of like goes, "Rah!" as if to...
Yeah, and you sort of like hold up your lantern and you look around, and the library looks in disarray. It looks like somebody or something has been almost like this knocking books off the shelf. The windows are still shuttered. The fire is out though. There's no fire in this place at all, and your lantern's the only sort of like light, and it looks as if somebody's just been flicking paper left, right and centre, and there's books on the floor, and there's books open on the floor, and some of the ones that are still on the shelf are sort of like tipped flat and everything. Doesn't look like it was anything malicious. They haven't torn paper up. It looks like it's been, say, ransacked, or.
But there's nobody in.
No, the whole room. You sort of like hold up your lantern and sort of like look around, and it's literally empty.
Look behind you to make sure that nobody's.
Say again, sorry.
He'll have a quick look behind him, make sure that nobody's managed to get round behind him.
I mean, the only exit out of here, the only doorway out of here is you're stood in it, and all the windows are closed and shuttered.
You said that there was one last bit of paper that was sort of like going down really.
Yeah,
slowly.
really slowly.
It's
on the paper. It's on the table now. It's not sort of like. It's just sort of like, just as if somebody, as you came in, somebody sort of like let go of it.
Yeah. So Peabody's just going to look around dumbfounded. I mean, he definitely heard what he heard, and there should definitely be somebody. He'll have a look underneath. Is there a table?
Yeah. The last piece of paper that you saw, there seems to be a letter, a piece of paper with like a heading on it, that like a piece of stationery for the Bargrove Hall. It's totally
nothing written on.
No, yeah, it's completely and utterly blank.
Are there any curtains or anything that somebody could be hidden behind?
Roll a spot hidden roll for me.
He's basically going to start looking for places where somebody.
Yeah, roll a spot hidden for me.
Did it roll?
No.
There we go. Roll that time.
93. Yeah. So you start to sort of like look around, and there's some heavy drapes, and you sort of like look behind them, and you look underneath the table, etc., etc. And there seems to be nothing there at all. The only thing that you do notice, and you notice this, but this is as much information as you're going to get from it because of the poor spot hidden roll. The fire, I mentioned earlier that the fire's out, and as you look in it seems to be put out with water. There's sort of like the coals, and in the grate, it looks like there's water. Well, there is water dripping from the grate out onto the floor.
Going over and having a closer look at it, does there seem to be any like paper ash? Do you know when you burn paper and then sort of like throw water on it to put it out quickly? Is there anything like Like
Yeah.
burnt bits of ends of paper.
No, not
like somebody might have been trying to destroy something.
no. The only thing that you can see is that obviously some embers in the fire place, because obviously they don't keep the going all night. But it looks like it was put out with water, and like I said, you can still see bits of water dripping through the grate onto the hearth.
So looking round, is there a vase or a jug or anywhere that the water might have been taken from?
There are vases, and that seem to have flowers in them, or painted sticks and things like that. But they either sort of like false flowers, artificial flowers, or they still have the water in it.
How big is the fireplace? Could it be? I take it 1880s. Are chimney sweeps still employed?
Of course, yeah.
So is it big enough for somebody to go up and down it?
Yeah, it would have to be a small child.
Making an educated guess, could it be that this might have just been caused by a snowfall down the chimney?
What could be?
The fire going out using water, for example, if the
that would be one of the possibilities that it could have been. Yeah, I'm not saying that is the way it happened. I'm just saying, yeah, that could be a possibility.
Okay. Did my spot hidden roll include me noticing anything on the floor? Like,
yes,
if there was,
your spot hidden roll did.
I didn't know whether or not
like
it was just
that,
one thing, or whether or not it was for specific things. If I then mentioned it.
No, I rolled a spot hidden for everything that you noticed in the room.
Okay, that's fine then. Okay, Peabody's going to have one more look before going out and closing the door and going back to the trophy room to once again have a look at the towards the stables.
Yeah, hang on, I just need you to make a roll for me. Just 1 second. I'm just bringing out a couch sheet because I want to see what it is. Yeah, could you roll for me a dodge roll? Should be half your you're sort of like walking back through this sort of like gateway, that doorway there, and if you remember, it's just like an open thing, and as you walk through, you feel something hit you on the back from behind, and it doesn't seem to hit you hard, and you sort of like look around, and there seems to be like a small lump of snow that is just on the carpet, and you sort of like reach around and sort of like touch your back, and you've definitely got like a damp patch on your outside coat, as if somebody's lobbed a snowball at you and it's hit you on your back and then fell to the floor.
Turning around, and Peabody's going to start striding towards the where the person must have thrown it from, which is must have come around this corner, and he must have missed him, brandishing his poker that he still had, and he's going to go around the corner with his poker held up high, checking to the left and the right.
Yeah, you sort of like go brandishing a poker, and you sort of like go through the room, and the corridor's empty. All 3 doors that you can see are shut, unless you left the library door open.
No. He made sure that he had shut that.
Yeah, that's cool then. All of them are.
He didn't hear any doors opening or.
Roll a listen roll. No, you didn't hear any doors opening or shutting.
And the windows to the north, that was still boarded.
Just ping with the one that you're referring to. Oh yeah, that is
because it was there when he
yeah,
hit,
exactly. That window is still boarded, but when you go over there, you notice that the fire is out, and there's this telltale sign of water dripping through the grate. Just roll a spot hidden for me, please. Yeah, definitely water dripping from the grate.
Okay. Peabody's going to go to this corridor, and he's going to open number 17.
Yeah, that goes into the chapel. And if you remember, there was a...
In which case, won't open 17. He wants to find the next... He wants to go to a room that he knows is like a fireplace that would have been lit recently.
Well, 11 is the kitchen.
11 will be just right then.
Yeah, and yes, you open...
The chapel, they wouldn't have... They would only light it.
Yeah, but there was nothing in the chapel, and you go into the kitchen, and the kitchen is very orderly. It looks like it's all... Mrs. Beddoes have made a really good job putting everything to bed, and the fire in here is still on, and there seems to be like a pot of water over the top of it. It's not a raging fire, but there's definitely that amber glow in here of the coals, so it wouldn't take a lot. Probably, a few planks of wood and a bit more coal, and it would be up and ready to serve the hall for hot water and cooking as well.
But with Howard's last thing of seeing to the fires, chances are he wouldn't have put them out with water, because that would just make them really...
Oh, no, the fires are generally not put out.
No, they're just put to bed.
Yeah.
So that you can still get the embers from them.
Correct.
Or
yeah.
Some of the embers would have been taken out and put into the pots for the beds. And
in the bed pans. Yeah.
Um,
Just so you know, you look in the scullery as well, and that fire is exactly the same as...
Okay, well, he's going to go to the parlour, and he wants to check the fire in the parlour.
Yeah, it's still on. Yeah. Everything else is... looks as if it's completely normal. Apart from... Remember there was a cabinet that did have 2 vases on.
And one vase, the other vase was underneath the other one.
Yeah, just roll an intelligence, a no roll for me, so just your intelligence. Yeah, the vase is definitely on the opposite side of the table. It's definitely, there's no doubt about it. It's definitely moved from one side of the cabinet to the other side of the cabinet. Definitely. Without any shadow of doubt.
Is there something like a memory roll? Can I remember when we were in the parlour earlier discussing things? Can I remember where it was then?
It's moved from then. It's moved position from when you were last in there.
He's going to put the lantern on the table, and he's going to check the shutters.
Yeah, they all seem to be, and the windows seem to be tightly shut.
Okay, he's going to putting the poker up against a chair or something. He's going to get the vase. He's going to pick it up.
Yeah.
Take it close to the candlelight and have a look inside it.
Yeah, apart from somebody's not doing their dusting very well, there's nothing in it.
Okay. And then he's going to put it back on the opposite side of where he's just...
So put it where it was originally placed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he's going to pick up his poker, go out the door, close it, and go back into the trophy room so that he can keep an eye out. And
and it's interesting because sure as you come in the doorway, the first thing that you're very much aware of is that there's something outside the window, because you can see outside, and there's almost like a shadow of some object or something just outside the window. It's just sort of like making out, it's just sort of like stopping the light from outside because it's snowing. There's that reflection of the moon inside, and there's definitely some kind of shadow on the window, outside the window. It looks like it's moving, and it looks like it's moving from roughly the east to the west. So it looks like it's probably started here,
Maybe heading for the door.
and it's heading that way. And you just sort of like see it, this dark shadow. You just catch a glimpse of it as you come in the door, and you see it moving down in that direction. And with that, I think this is a suitable time to take our break. First break of the night, because we're 6 minutes late. Sorry about that. So we're going to have a quick 10-minute break. So please, if you're watching the stream, thank you very much. Hope you're enjoying it. Come back after about 10 minutes. Go and get yourself a beverage and a snack. Come back afterwards and see what is possibly stalking Mr. Peabody. We will be back in 10.
Don't worry, I've got
Lucky we started. Yeah, so hi and welcome
my
back.
moustache on straight. It doesn't look
No, it's not. Look at Mr. Pickles. Mr. Pickles is perfect. His moustache and beard are perfect. Take one from him.
I use a proper glue.
Yeah.
No, I use double-sided sticky tape.
Okay, so we left. Mr. Bleeker and Dr. King are in bed sleeping in their night attire, and Mr. Peabody's has come back into the trophy room and seen a shadow pass across the window. And Mr. Peabody, we're going straight across.
Peabody is 100% certain that this person is heading towards the door, probably the back door.
Yeah, it looked as if you don't think it was something stood up. It was almost as if they were crouched over. You know when you don't want to be seen.
Yeah, so it's something, something like someone who had broken out of prison, who is obviously cold, well, so he's hunched over.
Yeah, possibly, yeah.
So going to the gun cabinet, he's going to open. He's going to do this as quick as he can. He's putting the poker down, grabbing a rifle.
Yeah.
And then he's heading out the door and running round.
You want to put your token where you're going, yeah?
Down by 15. He's going to come through this door here, and he wants to, once he's through, if you can see a table or something, he wants to put the lantern on the table.
Yeah, there's one of those big tables that people do cooking on. Yeah.
All right. And put it down, cover it with some type of cloth if he can to block the light. So he's got the and take up the rifle in both hands, aiming it at the back door.
Okay.
And then he's going to wait.
So you sort of like
Quiet,
you put the lantern down. You sort of like try to dim the light shedding out from it, and you sort of like pulled back the hammer ready, and you sort of like level it at the door, ready to shoot. And you wait. And you wait.
He's listening very.
Yeah, roll the listen roll then. You can't hear anything unless you want to use 23 points of luck.
No.
Can't hear anything.
He's going to go over to the door.
Okay.
Is it bolted?
Yes, it is. Top and bottom.
He's going to kneel down and undo the bottom one.
Quickly, or try to do
very quietly, as quietly as he can.
Do you hear these sounds? Do you hear that?
No.
I don't. Honestly, once Zoom starts.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so you sort of like slowly, sort of like pull it back. Try not to make any sound at all. Just make a dex roll for me to see how good you are at that. Yeah, you sort of like slowly pull it, and you inching it, and then it gets to that bit that it slightly jams a bit, and you keep pulling it, and all of a sudden it goes clack like that, and sort of like you think. Drat!
Under his breath, he curses the incompetence of Howard, not oiling the.
Yeah, there's a top one, and it does look like it's locked as well, but there is a key on the inside. It's sort of like hung up on a hook.
Right. So he's going to do the top one.
Yeah. Okay. So roll your dex roll. Yeah. So
Again.
do you want to use 50?
No, it's Howard. It's not my fault.
You know, and you sort of go like that. You think, oh.
He's going to go and get the key.
Yeah, it's right next to the door, so you don't need to go far.
They should never leave the key. People can break windows and just read. Is there a window close, by the way?
It's over the opposite side. It's
here, isn't it?
Here, yeah.
He's going to put the key in. Slowly turn it.
Yeah, just roll your dex roll. No, sorry, roll your luck. Yeah, you sort of like slowly turn it and it goes click!
Okay, he's going to grab hold the door handle, fling the door open, taking a step backwards and bringing the rifle up to a firing position.
Yeah, and you sort of like open the door and the door flies open at you. You sort of like step back and you sort of like outside is quite dim because you've got a cover on the lantern. You probably stood in front of it. And you sort of like level your rifle outside, and yeah, there's definitely something outside the door. It's right here, matter of fact, and you can see it almost like it looks too big to be. It's definitely something. It looks like something sort of like hunched over something, but it looks too big to be an actual person at all, and you're just sort of like trying to figure out what it is, and you slowly lift the cover a little bit off the lantern to shed some more light out and bring your rifle down to bear on it. And as the light shines out, you suddenly see out there one of the horses.
The first thing that Peabody's going to look at is to see whether or not its mane's been plaited.
Its mane isn't plaited, but its tail is.
He's got his winter coat on, holding the rifle in one arm, sort of like underneath his almost like a shotgun would be.
Yeah.
He's going to go out, and he wants to have a look at the snow.
Yeah,
he's going to be very careful not to think, but he wants to look for other footprints.
Are you taking the lantern out with you as well?
He's taking the lantern out with
Yeah,
him.
so roll.
He's going to need it to see the
Yeah, but just roll your spot hidden for me. So this is the amount of detail that you see. Okay, so you see.
I use 25 points of luck now.
you see the following thing. So the first thing you could actually use some luck to take it down below 11.
No, I haven't got that. Yeah, I'll leave it.
Okay, so you saw it's only 14 points, isn't it? Yeah. You sort of like look out, and this is what you see. The first thing that you notice is the horse, and the second thing that you notice is that the other two horses are out of the stables and almost like walking around in the snow. The second thing that you notice is that the snow is getting deeper. I'm not too sure what footwear you have on, but it's probably in places up to your knee, up against the side of the house, and it's quite thick in other places, but it's that lovely snow that when you actually put your foot down on it, as it compacts, it's sort of going, you know. You can see
he has a pair of Oxfords on.
Okay, so you can see horses prints out here, but that's it, and your own. And you sort of like look around, and you even sort of like go over to the stable, and there's no footprints or anything round there at all. Just it looks like somebody's either left or opened the stall doors to the stables. There's a couple of horses still in there, but they're obviously chewing at some hay and didn't want to sort of like come out.
How far away is Mackenzie's?
Yeah, so Mackenzie's, if you look, is number 3, and the exterior you can see the distance there. Can you see it?
So, yeah, 11 foot, is it?
No, it's interior and then exterior. One of those is so about 10 foot of you measuring is about 75 feet.
So it's a long.
Yeah.
But the horses are out.
No, 3 of them are, yeah. They don't look like they're going anywhere. They just seem to be wandering around the ornamental gardens.
It's not for him to corral horses back in. It's job of these stable hand.
Roll a listen roll for me, please. Yeah, you're sort of like over by the stable. So on the top map, you're sort of like here. Sorry, I'm on the wrong here, and you suddenly hear something clatter in the trophy room.
He's gonna try his best to run in that direction.
Yeah.
Probably finding it hard with the depth of the snow, and
Are you going right the way back round to the trophy room? Yeah.
he's going up to the window because the window.
Oh yeah, you're going up to the window. Yeah. You sort of like trudge.
The fire's on, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's just like an ember glowing there. You sort of like trudge up to the window. You look inside, and you notice that some of the trophies, like of the stag, has been knocked off the wall, and it's actually on the floor. You actually do notice from looking in that there seems to be one of the antlers has been broken off as well, and you sort of like have a good look inside. You sort of like cup your hand over to sort of like see through the windows. The windows sort of like icy cold, and you look around, but do a spot hidden for me. Yeah, it looks completely empty. The only thing that
I'm going to use 8 points from that.
Okay then, so yeah, take 8 points to look at. What you do notice is that the door is the opposite to what you left it. So
Right,
if you
it would have been open.
so in which case it's now shut.
Because my
Yeah.
thing would make as much haste as I could, so I could get in position.
Exactly. So you left it open, it's now closed.
Okay. Peabody's now panicking that he's probably let the people that left the escaped convict in himself, and again he's going to start running as fast as he can within the snow to 12.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, what would you like to do once you get there?
he's going to go in. He's going to shut the door behind him, locking it.
Yeah. And
then-
bolting it?
No, he's just going to lock it because
Okay.
of it's important that he gets where he's going as quick as possible. But once he's locked it, he's taking the key out and putting it in his pocket.
Okay.
He's not leaving it in the door. He's taking it with him, and then picking up his lantern again. He's going to come into 6, and he's heading round towards 16, towards
Yeah.
the trophy room.
Got you.
As he's going, he is taking notice of the floor and looking for any wet footprints, i.e., somebody who's
Okay
come-
then, so roll your spot hidden. Yeah, you don't, you sort of like you get right the way round to 16. You don't notice anything on the carpet at all.
Okay, he's going to open the door and immediately open the door. He's going to go in
Yeah,
as if to catch
and
somebody by surprise.
yeah, and yet again, you can see the fallen stag as if somebody's knocked it off. It's got a broken antler. It's on the floor. Apart from that, everything seems to be absolutely fine.
And the antler's still there.
Yeah, it just looks like it's fallen off and snapped.
He's going to go. He's going to shut the shutter windows,
Mm.
and then he's going to go upstairs. and he's going to wake up the other two.
Yeah, so as you go out the room, something almost like catches your eye, and you take a glance at the weapon cabinet, and you have one of the rifles. The other rifle is still there, but the revolver is missing. It's not in the cabinet anymore.
He's sort of like going to do a double take, and seeing that it's missing, he's going to go over and having looked at it recently, can he determine, because he probably had a look
Roll a
at
luck roll.
whether or not it was loaded, or
Roll a luck roll.
you wanted to see whether or not there was any ammunition.
You're not too sure. You think there might be some missing, but you're not too sure. The gun is definitely missing. There's .22. Yeah, so you go upstairs.
He's going to go upstairs, and he's going to wake the other two.
Yeah. Okay.
So he's going to go in each of the
Who are you going to first?
whichever. He'll do
Mr. Bleeker's?
Bleeker first. Yeah.
Mr. Bleeker, just roll a luck roll for me, please.
I would love to. Lucky.
Yeah, so Mr. Peabody comes into your room, and you sort of like immediately wake up, you know, because you heard the door go, and you're not sleeping that soundly at all. You suddenly wake up.
And Peabody's there with a lantern and a rifle, and he'll say in sort of like a hushed tone, he'll say, "Bleeker, may have problems downstairs. Come with me."
Okay, let me get my revolver, and then I'll join you downstairs.
You didn't borrow the revolver from the trophy room, did you?
No, I'm a librarian, not a thief. This is.
Can I just say that, you know, when you were saying that you were going to, this is very sexist of me, because when you said you were doing a librarian, I thought it was a woman. And I was really shocked when you sent me the token, because I was expecting a female librarian. So,
not sure how I feel about that.
yeah, that's what I was expecting.
Can you do a female voice from now on, please?
Well, I think you had mentioned something about playing a Southern Belle or something like that.
Yeah, I processed that idea.
Yeah, and I think therefore when you said that you were doing like a prim and proper librarian, I naturally joined the two together.
That put him off on the Southern Belle.
Yes.
His wife said no.
You only get to wear that on the weekend.
So Mr. Peabody and Mr. Bleeker, what are you doing?
Once I've woke up Bleeker, I'm going to go into Dr. King's room and wake him up.
Yeah, Dr. King, just wake. Use a luck roll for me, please. Yeah, you sort of like go in, and both of you sort of like go in, and Dr. King's very much asleep, and you sort of like go right the way in, and he has one of those hair nets over his beard, and that loops just to keep it all in.
Probably got one of those blindfolds, sleeping blindfolds that people wear as well.
And you sort of like go over, and you sort of like have to physically shake him. You know, he's in Mr. Bleeker, I presume, is in his nightshirt.
Yes, with my revolver though.
Yeah, and and Dr. King's in his nightshirt as well. He has a hat on, like
he's got one of those sleeping caps.
Yeah, like Wee Willie Winkle.
Yeah.
You know.
And
it's quite long, and it's red, and it's got
a pom-pom on the end.
Patterns on it. It's got a white pom-pom on. Yeah.
Yeah, and
do you have Wee Willie Winkle in the States?
No, but I'm pretty sure I'm imagining it pretty well proper here.
Do you want Longshanks to sing you it?
I don't know it.
Wee Willie Winkle
ran through the town,
upstairs and downstairs.
Is that
Light it down. Knocking on the windows, Wee Weely Winkle runs through the town, upstairs and downstairs in his nightgown, tapping on the windows, crying through the logs. Are all the children in their beds? Because it's past 8 o'clock.
I wish that would happen to my next door neighbour's kid.
Yeah,
He's up till like 12 o'clock at night screaming away.
They do. So, Mr. Dr. King, what are you doing? You're in your night.
I'm fast asleep in my nightgown unless I've been.
No, you've been shook awake now.
Be shocking away.
What's going on? What? And you see him sort of like pull up his like blindfold thing. Whoa. People. What's going on?
We have problems, man. Get your gun. And with that, Peabody's going to.
Does Dr. King have a gun?
Dr. King looks at him for a moment.
Has a gun.
No, I was asking Dr. King.
Dr. King looks at them for a moment and goes, I don't have a gun, but...
After he said that, Peabody sort of like, get your gun, and he's headed out.
And Mr. Bleeker's running after you with his pistol.
With his night shirt. And
Dr. King's going to take his beardness off. He's going to take his sleeping blindfold thing off. He's still got his nightcap on. And he's going to put on his dressing gown, which matches his nightcap.
Yeah, so by this time...
by this time,
slippers on, and then
yeah,
he's going to shuffle down the corridor.
Yeah, so when you come out, you can just see Mr. Bleeker going round the corner. Yes, whereabouts are you going, people?
So once we've come down the stairs and we're out of sort of like earshot of making too much more noise on the upper floor, Peabody's going to briefly tell the other two what has happened since they retired, starting off with what happened.
Yeah, so you relate what's happened. Yeah, so are you going down the stairs? Sorry, are you?
Yeah, so we've come down the stairs, so we're probably in number 6 when
yeah, so you can move yourself down there, and Dr. King eventually joins you down there with his nightgown and probably carrying his doctor's bag, because that's probably the first thing he always picks up. Yeah, what would you like to do?
If nobody says anything, he'll say, I think we should search the rest of the downstairs and see where the ruffian's hiding. But be warned, he's probably armed.
Well, so am I. I'll check the scullery first.
Yes, I'll go with you. I haven't got a pistol.
Yeah, I'll take Dr. King.
Okay, so Mr. Peabody, where are you going?
So Peabody will. People do all the rest of the rooms if they're doing the skull. He'll start heading.
Mr. Bleeker and Dr. King can do scullery. Then they can go into the kitchen into 11.
Okay,
and then they could do 17 and 8 and 27.
Okay, so Peabody's going to do 7 to 2 15s, 9, 10, and then finally he's going to go back into 16.
Okay then. So what is the plan at the doors? Guys, if you tell me what you're going to do
at the doors.
Yeah, are you just walking around opening the door and walking in, or are you listening or announcing your presence? We're coming in. If you're in there, do not shoot us. Or
Peabody's going in sort of like not forcibly, but he's opening the door and going straight in. He's not sort of like trying to catch somebody off guard, more than sort of like listening and
got you. And what about Mr. Bleeker and Dr. King?
Dr. King's going in second every time.
Yeah, okay.
I was going to say I want to have Dr. King stay behind me. I'm going to be trying to use my librarian walk. If you want me to roll stealth, I can.
Yes, I would love that.
Awesome.
If you have stuff.
I'm sneaking about, but the first thing I want to do in the scullery is check the dish that I left out with cream, see its contents, then going about normally to investigate the rooms.
Okay, then. So, Mr. Bleeker, can you roll your luck, please?
Oh, yes. Pow.
Yeah, you are lucky in the sense that Mr. Peabody did not knock it over while he was going in there and out there. It's still there and it's still full. It still hasn't, nothing's been eaten or anything. So Melvin, Mr. Bleeker got so a good success there. Dr. King, can you roll your stealth, please? Oh, you're both like cats.
Because he hasn't put anything on his feet.
Yeah.
He's got his slippers on.
Socks on.
So you start. Are you stealthing Mr. Peabody or not?
No, Peabody's not. No, he's got Oxfords on.
Okay, so you saw like quarter and search by twos, and you start, or just one in your case, and two things happen, one on one side of the house and one on the other side of the house. And Mr. Bleeker, how are you going through the doors? I just need to know that.
I'd probably gently put my hand on the knob and turn it very slowly, and if I can, I'd like to be listening too, hear if there's anything in the other room.
Right, so you're listening then going in. That's brilliant.
Cool.
And we will assume that Dr. King has a lantern of some description in your party, in your two, so you can actually see round. So Dr. King, you'll have the lantern in one hand and your doctor's bag in the other, unless you wish to put your doctor's bag down somewhere.
No,
yeah.
Dr. King will have his doctor's bag tucked under his arm.
Right.
So he's holding it toward into his chest.
And then Mr. Peabody, you've got a lantern and your rifle, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay then. So let's do the west side of the house first. So Mr. Bleeker and Dr. King, you're moving incredibly silently, and you're quite impressed. You know how you're both avoiding any of those loose floorboards that do that creaking, and you check 14 to start off with, just out of interest, because that's the pantry, and there's nothing in there at all. There's nothing in 11 at all. There's nothing in 17. Can you roll now your listen roll as you get up to 27?
Is this both of us?
No, just Mr. Bleeker.
Just Bleeker. Okay.
Would it? I'd like to spend 5 points of luck to get a hard success if I can.
By all means, we just remove those looks. Okay, when you get up to the library, you listen. There's definitely someone or somebody moving around in there.
I want to gesture to Dr. King to stop, or whatever this means.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to do my super stealthy librarian entry, if I can.
Okay, so just roll your luck.
Right after I spent some points.
Yeah, so you sort of like try really carefully to turn the handle of the door to sort of like push the door, and you manage to get the doorknob turned, and you just slowly start to push the door, and it just goes like that as you open it. What would you like to do?
Continue pushing it forward, I guess, so that I could see in, because otherwise
quicker or the same rate?
Same rate.
Okay, so you continue to push this squeaky door, and it opens, eventually opens wide enough for you to see inside. And as the light sort of like shines from behind you, it illuminates part of the room, and you see in the middle of the room, and we'll go over to Mr. Peabody, who's over here. Yes, Mr. Peabody, how are you
So Peabody's a bit different than these other two. He's very much more brash, you know. If anybody's here, they have no right to be here. He's and he'll sort them out. So he's just sort of like going to the doors and opening them and going straight in. And
yeah, okay then. So you go around it, and it's when you get to number 10 that something happens. You sort of like to open the door, fling back, and could you make a dodge roll for me, please? Yeah, and you sort of like open this door, and you're getting rather cocky with yourself now, because you've done all these things, and you almost like getting to the point of you thinking, good grief, there's nothing wrong with this house. You open the door, and as you open the door to the billiard room, a billiard ball comes flying out of nowhere and just hits you straight on the face. You take 2 points of damage, but as it
that come off? Hit
points, yeah. But as it hits you, you almost like try to get out the way of it. As you see it, you don't get out the way. It actually whacks you on the head, and you drop the lantern and the rifle at the same time as you fumble your roll. And the lantern, roll your luck, please.
I'm just waiting for the rifle to go bang.
Luckily, neither the rifle goes bang or the lantern goes out, as luck is obviously on your side, and you sort of like it crashed out. You can see somewhat into the room, but not too clearly. Mr. Bleeker, you come open the door, and you see inside what appears to be a huge pile of books on the middle table, and it looks like somebody's been almost like stacking them and piling them up around, and there's this huge sort of like pile of books in the middle of the table. And just roll your intelligence for me, please.
There we go.
And you look at it, and you're sort of like puzzled for a while, and you're thinking, what on earth? And then you suddenly think, that looks like the Standing Stone in Hobbs Field. How it's been piled up, and some of the books are lying on the side, etc., etc. Yes, Mr. Peabody, what would you like to do?
The first thing he's going to do is to fumble for the rifle and try to bring it to bear.
Yeah, so you sort
of assailant who's thrown the ball.
Yeah, so you sort of like pick up the rifle and you shoot it in, aim in, and the first thing that you notice is that the fire is out. There's no glow on it at all, and you sort of like level the rifle, and you've got some light coming in from the fallen lantern, and you sort of like skim round, and unless they're hiding behind the snooker table, the billiard table, there's nothing upright in this room at all. Yes, Mr. Bleeker, what would you like to do?
Share my observation with Dr. King. That it looks like the stone, and then I'd like to look at the books, see if the titles maybe have a similar theme, or if there's a book that looks.
Yeah. Okay then, Dr. King, is there anything you would like to do?
Dr. King, so he's going, after following into the room, Bleeker into the room, he's going to, once it's pointed out this is like the Standing Stone, he's going to sort of like cock his head and go, yes, and then he's going to go and check the windows. Okay,
so the windows are easy. They're all shuttered and boarded up. Mr. Bleeker, could you make an idea roll for me, please?
I would love to.
Yeah, you look round and you are definitely sure, 100%, that there's no connection with these books. It ranges from horticultural growing of chrysanthemums to, how to kill a pheasant. Yeah, it just seems to be random books. Yeah, Mr. Peabody, back to you.
Peabody's going round, gun held up to his shoulder and sort of like leveling it off behind this billiard table.
Yeah, and you sort of like come round expecting almost something to be there. Roll spot hidden for me, please. Yeah, and you sort of like come around the edge, sort of like expecting somebody to be there, almost like preempting it, ready to fire and pull the trigger. And as you look behind the billiard table, there's nothing there at all. However, you do notice something. just outside the hearth of the fireplace, there seems to be snow that is just slowly melting, as if something sort of like has had snowy feet and run near the chimney. They're facing towards the chimney, towards the fireplace, and they are probably the size of the footprints that you saw outside the door the previous night.
Okay.
Yeah, do you know what you want to do?
Peabody's the first thing that he wants to do. He wants to because he's very good at noticing detail and stuff, but he wants to try to remember the exact size and shape of what he's seen. So when he gets to his sketch pad, he can draw it.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
But he also wants to head towards the fireplace and.
Yeah, so you're right next to the fireplace now.
Okay, can he kneel down and almost like can he get down to an angle so he can see whether or not anybody's gone up it? Or
do you want to stick your head in there?
Yes.
So you want to stick your head.
The fire's off, isn't it?
The fire's off, but you want to stick your head into a fireplace and turn your face up to look up the chimney.
Filthy.
Yeah, I do, because as far as Peabody looks at it, he doesn't know a lot about fireplaces.
Yeah, that.
Apart from that, he gets somebody in to sweep them occasionally, but he wants to know whether or not it's big enough for somebody.
Yeah. Okay, then. So you stick your head
up and down.
Yeah. So you stick your head in there and you turn it up. Make a dodge roll for me, Mr. Bleeker and Dr. King. What would you like to do?
Did it roll?
No. It's rolled now. Yeah.
It's a good question. Since there's no connection, and I assume that there's no like book that might look like a door on this construction. So I'm gonna go over to Dr. King and say, I guess I must have heard wrong. That there's clearly nothing in here.
Wow.
Okay, yeah, so you sort of like explained it to the doctor, and Mr. Peabody, you sort of like stick your head up and you look up and you can actually see right the way up at the top, almost like the light of the moon shining down. And as you're looking up, you suddenly see something coming hurling down the chimney. It looks like it was dropped rather than thrown from the top of the chimney. And down comes, and you sort of like see it and think, bloody hell, and sort of like try to get your head out the way. And also you just get smacked in the face by what appears to be a lump of snow. Unfortunately, as it came down, it took some of the soot off the edges of the chimney inside, and you figure that these chimneys haven't been cleaned for some time, and the snowball sort of like hits you on the face. It doesn't do any harm. It gives you a covering of snow, but then we're accompanied by a whole lot of soot that sort of like comes down and sort of like cascades over.
So Peabody sort of like stands up and he's sort of like spluttering and trying to get the snow out of his eyes, whilst also trying to hold on to the rifle. But then he's going to grab the lantern on the off the table, and he's going to start heading out. And that, as he sort of like gets into the foyer, he's going to shout, "Bleeker! King, they're on the roof!" And he's going to head to these doors and start opening the front door.
Yeah, you just randomly sort of like opening it as quickly as you can. Is that the plan?
His plan is to get there so that he can get out, maybe get an angle and maybe shoot the person off the roof.
Okay then, yeah. So Mr. Bleeker and Dr. King, what is going to be your actions? You hear Mr. Peabody shout.
King's probably going to come running as quickly as he can in his moccasin slippers into the hallway, and then he just with the lantern, he's just going to then stand there and says, "So we're going outside to have a look up the roof. I'll look after the door."
Mr. Bleeker, what are you doing?
Following close behind.
Yeah, so Dr. King is sort of like holding the lantern, and Mr. Peabody, you manage to undo the bolts, and you find that your key that you've got in your pocket also opens the front door as well as the back door, so it's a good job you had it in your pocket. And you open the doors and you sort of like fling them open, and you and Mr. Bleeker, I presume, are going outside, and you sort of like step back and you have a look up because you're quite the far out to actually see it there, because it's a 2-story building, and you sort of like train your weapons along it, and you roll a spot hidden, both of you. You do notice that it started to snow again, by the way. Yeah, so both of you look up. Mr. Bleeker, you have by far the keenest vision, and you look up and you sort of like trace your rifles and your pistol along the top of the roof, carefully considering the chimney stacks and whether or not somebody's or something is hiding behind it, and there seems to be nothing up there at all. Dr. King, you do notice that Howard is coming down the stairs, and he sort of like says, "Hey, sorry, sir, I heard a rumpus, and I just wondered if everything's all right." And
yes, quite all right.
Dr. King, you're now shivering slightly, and Mr. Bleeker, you've got quite a cold draft.
Mr. Peabody, your face is filthy, and I'm gonna walk back inside.
Yeah, his is, and you notice that Mr. Howard to you guys is sort of like saying, "Oh my, did somebody have an accident with some soot?"
What's the outside of the building like? Is it vine covered? I'm just looking.
No, it's just covered in, and it's just brickwork.
So there's nothing that somebody could, unless they climbed up using the brick. There's nothing that.
There's no ladder accidentally left up there. No,
and vines or something like that they could maybe have used.
No, there's no vines. They would have to go. Are you coming back inside, Mr. Peabody?
Yeah, he's going to, so that he doesn't look too much of a fool. He's going to spend a couple more minutes, like checking before.
Checking.
Well, keeping an eye on the rooftop.
Yeah, no, there's nothing there, and then you come in with quite a red face now, not from embarrassment, but when you get hit by snow, it sort of like brings out the redness and a bit sooty, and you sort of like walk back in, and Howard sort of like looks at you and looks down and says, "My, Mr. Peabody, you seem to have a very similar rifle to the late Sir William."
Yes, it's one that I got from the trophy room.
Oh, yes, sir.
I am trained in it, good man. I fought in the African wars, for God's sake.
I do not doubt your prowess. Would you like me to replace it?
No, I think I'll keep hold of it for the time being. I'll talk to Lady Allingham tomorrow about it. There has been several incidents during the night, and horses were let out, probably by the escaped convict, who might still be in the area. And I believe I just heard somebody on the roof.
Maybe close and secure the front doors then, sir.
Well, I would have done if you hadn't started questioning about the rifle that I was having.
Yes, sir. If you are going to talk to Lady Allingham about the borrowing of Sir William's her late husband's rifle, then I'm sure she will be able to express. Yes, shall I shut the door, sir?
Yes. Go ahead, man.
Thank you, sir. And he sort of like goes over and shuts the door, and then sort of like waits, and then says to you, Mr. Peabody, would sir like some water, fresh water?
Yeah, I'll be going to get changed in.
Yes, sir. Yes. Is there anything I can get for you?
No, not nothing. You go back to bed, Howard. Everything is under.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir. And he sort of like looks at Mr. Peabody and looks at Mr. Bleeker and Dr. King in their night attire, and sort of goes, yes, I shall make my way back to my bedroom and reassure the fellow servants. Thank you, sir. Good night. And he sort of like walks up the stairs every now and again, stopping and looking round almost in disbelief as a soot-covered guy with Sir William's rifle is there, then two people in their night attire, and he goes right way up and back to bed. So what would you like to do now, guys?
Well, the first thing that Peabody is going to do, he's going to go upstairs and he's going to get changed.
Yeah, you're probably thinking now that you've probably had enough excitement for the night. Do you still wish to keep a watch for the rest of the evening or the rest of the night, or not?
How far have we gone through?
Yeah, well, it's just gone about 2:00 in the morning now.
Right, so it would be Peabody's time to turn in anyway, probably.
If you wish to do that, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. After he's got changed, he's going to come back down, and he wants to do two things. The first thing he wants to do is go into the parlour, and he wants to check the vase.
It's exactly wherever you left it.
Okay, and then he wants to go back into the trophy room. And
is this after you've cleaned yourself up?
This is after I've cleaned myself.
Okay, then. So, we'll come back to Mr. Peabody then. Mr. Bleekham, Dr. King, what would you like to do? Because Mr. Peabody's gone into his room to sort of like clean himself up, and then he's going to be coming back down and searching rooms. But you'll have plenty of time to do whatever you wish to do, even if it's just to go back to bed.
I would like to go back to bed, but before I do so, I'd like to get in my little powder pack and get some salt and make a thin trail surrounding my bed if I can.
Yeah.
And then I'll go to sleep.
Yeah, just roll a dex roll for me so I can see how good you do it. And Dr. King, what about you? Oh, there's one thing you can do. It's laying a salt trail.
Oh, yeah. I'm a salty boy.
Dr. King... going to continue on with his agreement with Peabody. He's going to go and sit in the trophy room, try and revive the fire. And
yeah, the fire is out.
I was out. Okay.
Yeah, it got washed out. No, sorry, there isn't a fire in the trophy room. There's no fireplace in the trophy room.
Plot twist.
Because there has to be an F in the room. So the one that's been put out, sorry, that was my fault. It's 10. That isn't it? It's the billiard room, Mr. Peabody, that has been put out.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no fire in the trophy room.
In that case, he'll probably go into the parlour and sit in one of the chairs by gas lamp, and he's going to sit and keep an eye out, but also at the same time read a book.
Okay then, so
Listening else, and that's-
yeah, so Dr. King sort of like sits there reading a book. Mr. Peabody, you get washed, and you come down and you check the parlour. You go in, and
Yeah,
Dr.
so, I
King.
mean, he's not searching any rooms. All he's doing is coming in and just he puts his head round that door and checks to see whether or not the vase has been moved, and then he's going back down to the trophy room, and he's going to unload the rifle that he took. He's going to put it back in the cabinet, but then he's going to take take any ammunition for the rifles and take that back up into his.
So you're taking a rifle and ammunition to bed with you?
I'm going back in. I'm unloading the rifle.
Yeah. Just tell me what you're taking to bed.
The ammunition for the rifles.
For the rifles. Okay then. Yeah. So that's cool. Yeah, and Dr. King, I mean, after all this has happened, it's about 2:30 in the morning, 2:45, and you sort of like settle down, Dr. King, reading a book. Just roll your luck roll. I just want to see whether or not you drop off or not. Yeah, and you sort of like start to read the book for a while, and you sort of like yawn and stretch, and then the next thing, you open your eyes and you think there's a scullery maid coming in and say, "Sorry, sir, I'll just do the fire."
Oh, yes, thank you very much. I think I should probably go and, freshen up.
Yeah, and you sort of like head off upstairs to bed, and you sort of like all sleep very well for the rest of the night, and indeed you actually sleep quite late. You know, it's about 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning when you actually wake up, and you feel really refreshed and as if you've had a nice sleep, and there's been no sort of like dreams or anything like that disturbing you, and you can almost hear people moving around. You know, you'll probably be able to get some breakfast from the kitchen or the scullery, and they'll probably make you something in the dining room. And it's when you sort of like getting dressed, and the servants open the windows and the shutters, and you can see that there's quite a thick layer of snow now, as far as the eye can see, so thick that you think wagon, the carriage, probably wouldn't be able to get through it at all. You know, you don't think it would be strong enough to get through some of the drifts, and there still seems to be quite a prevailing wind whistling across Dartmoor, and you can see on various sides of the house that the snow is actually piled up almost like past the windowsills, as it sort of like gets blown up against the side of the house. And as you sort of like get ready and you sort of like come along this area here to go downstairs, you see coming up the stairs a rather excited Ursula, who's blabbering on about it being snowing and begging Madame Ducray whether or not they can go out in the snow. And Madame Ducray is being stern and firm, but not nasty, if that makes sense. And she sort of like says, "First, Ursula, you need to do your homework. Let's come in. This morning's topic is geography. The members of the British Empire." And they sort of like go off to the number 20, and Howard sort of like brings you some eggs and coffee, etc., that you eat in the dining hall, and he sort of like says that unfortunately Lady Allingham has retired. She did come down for breakfast, but she's not feeling well, and you naturally inquire, you know, what is it? And Howard comments and says that she has one of her heads, and which you sort of like understand is probably an excuse, if nothing else, but obviously got some kind of headache or migraine. And Dr. King, you obviously sort of like offer your services.
Yes.
And Howard says, I will get the maid to ask her. And the maid sort of like comes down shortly after and sort of like bows or curtsies to Mr. Howard, and sort of says, she says she's fine, Mr. Howard. And Mr. Howard goes, oh, thank you, Mary. Go along and clean the silver now.
Yeah,
You know.
whilst Howard's there, people say, Howard, any way up onto the roof?
Only via ladder, sir, and maybe through the attic windows.
Right, good man. Just asking.
Yes, sir. Sir, I do apologise for my almost familiarity about the rifle last night. Please accept my humble apologies relating that. But I wonder whether or not... well, I feel I have to inform you that there is a revolver missing. Did you have need of this?
No, that is why I was carrying a rifle.
Oh,
There
right.
was I thought I'd made it clear, Howard. There was a disturbance last night. Maybe somebody in the house.
Oh, right. A burglar.
Well, what else could it have been?
Right, and they stole the revolvers, sir. Thank you. That has thrown significant light on the subject. Thank you, sir. And he sort of like goes out and just roll a listen roll for me. Yeah, he sort of like goes out, and you don't. He seems to be muttering something, but you can't figure out exactly what he says. And if you sort of like challenge him about it, he just goes, "Oh, nothing, sir. Sorry. At my age, I tend to mutter a lot to myself." You know, and sort of like goes about his business. Yeah, so you've virtually got the dining room to yourselves now. If there's anything that you would like to.
That's number 8, is it?
I'm just putting you in there now. Just so you know, Mr. Bleeker, when you woke up, there was no disturbance in your salt trail around your bed.
Excellent. Good to know. I tried not to disturb it myself, but well,
After
What do you like tonight? Carry on then. Right. Any thoughts?
It's I don't know if Bleeker mentioned it, but the library was completely turned over last night by something. The books seemed to be in the shape of a stone, Bleeker said.
the one from Hobbs Field specifically.
Well, as I mentioned previously, I also heard the sounds in the library.
But was it like that when you came in? Was all the books piled up in the shape of a stone, or?
No, it looked like somebody was probably looking for valuables to steal. I'm thinking probably the gypsy boy, maybe using the chimneys as a way in and out.
So
Same
came
thing
in.
happened. Same thing happened in the other room. Opened the door, tried to distract me by throwing a bowling ball. No,
Billiard.
I'm fine, King. Don't worry.
billiard ball,
And then
not a bowling ball.
billiard ball, and making his way back up through the chimney again.
So then after that, he must have come down and finished ransacking in the library then, if the books weren't in a stone like you said. So they've gone back into the library twice last night, at least.
Well, I searched the place thoroughly when I went in. No sign of them. Checked the drapes, checked everything. Nothing.
We can't be dealing with people here.
And why not?
Because people exist in space and they make noise, you know. And for Dr. King and I to go into the library and to have heard noise and existence of something moving in there and seeing the existence, evidence, if you will, of the books all stacked. There's no way, Mr. Peabody, that an existing human could have done that. Not a child, not an adult, not a group of adults, because a group of adults would have had to escape.
You hear, just while you're talking, you hear a thunderous banging of steps, footsteps coming down the stairs, and you sort of like lean back, Mr. Bleecker, because you can sort of like see out, and you see Ursula all sort of like wrapped up in snow gear, sort of like almost like dragging poor Madame Ducray down the stairs, saying, and they seem to be excited. She seems to be ultra excited that it's snowing. It's obvious that Madame Ducray has caved in on her request, and they sort of like go down the stairs and they come out this door, and they're obviously going out into the ornamental gardens to play with the snow, etc. Yeah, sorry. There's no sign of Lady Allingham, by the way.
So they also released the horses last night, so they must have released the horses to distract you, Peabody, to get into the house.
Yes. So whoever it was released the horses to distract me, then got into the house, stole a revolver.
But, Mr. Peabody, the big thing here is that nothing bad really is happening, in the sense of nobody's being hurt. It's almost like somebody's just playing pranks on us and messing with us.
See this bump on my head?
Well,
Just Mr.
no-
Peabody, just roll a luck roll for me, please. Yeah, you got quite a bruise this morning. It probably hit you on the cheek, so it's almost like bruising around the eye. So it almost like looks like you've got a bit of a black eye now. Almost as if you look like you've been in some kind of fisticuff fight, Mr. Peabody. Not very becoming of somebody of your social status or even higher status. Mm-hmm. You can see that now, Dr. King, as well.
Yes.
If these are my hypothesis, the pixie folk of Dartmoor, then they might have just been angered by you. You were moving quite loudly. I could hear you make a lot of noise. I didn't get hit by an angry spirit, and we haven't seen any people here. No, not a single clue of evidence of a person leaping through a window. It's not possible for this to be humans.
Well, I saw footprints.
Did you see a person that make the footprints, though?
Well, no, but I heard them, and I saw the footprints. If the footprints were there, they must have been made. What are you saying?
It could be children from the village playing a prank.
They would still take up space. We'd see them or hear them. We wouldn't just see aftermath of them, right?
You're not making sense, man. What are you saying?
I'm saying perhaps the local lores might have something of an explanation for our circumstances.
So the nearest, did you say law?
A lore.
Yeah, so the nearest constabulary would be in Princeton, sorry.
No, law as in
folklore.
Or folklore.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought you said law as in, yeah.
That's all good. Yeah, it can't be villagers. We would have seen them, heard them. I mean, I don't know about you, but when you were children, could you have climbed up that chimney?
Well, not me personally, but my father used to employ, and I employ chimney sweeps who do that all the time.
May I suggest that we continue this conversation in the trophy room? I wouldn't mind keeping an eye on the gardens.
Yes, I suppose that's fine with me.
Mademoiselle Ducray and Ursula out there. When there's a convict about, rather keep an eye on them if that's okay.
Yes, of course.
Seems
Good idea.
wise.
So we're going to reconvene to the to carry on with our discussion, and
Yeah.
Peabody wants to have a look out into the back garden, the back of the house, and see whether or not he can see Ursula and Mademoiselle Ducray.
Yeah, you look out onto the ornamental gardens. There doesn't seem to be anybody out there at all.
Can't seem to see them.
What? Well, I mean, they're playing. They're surely going to be dashing and diving about. Well, maybe not Madame
We
Ducray.
would have thought we would at least heard the child laughing, joking.
Maybe this house isn't very conducive to sounds.
Good Lord, man! I figure I'll go out for a closer look if that's okay with you.
Yeah, it's fine. Dr. King, would you know anything about architecture?
Peabody's going to go out and he's going to get his hat and coat from the closet and get his cane, and then he's going to go to the back door and open the back door and see whether or not.
Yeah, so as you you get your coat and bag, your coat and cane, and you come into the scullery. Sorry, Mr. Bleeker, what did you were talking about doing something?
I was asking about architecture to Dr. King if he knew anything about it.
No, I'm afraid that's completely out of my expertise.
If this house is built in a way that makes it so sound does not travel very well, that could explain why perhaps we're not hearing people in libraries stacking a tremendous amount of books.
That's true.
You come into the scullery, Mr. Peabody, and you see Madame Ducray sat at the table, having a cup of tea and chatting with Mrs. Beddoes, the kitchen and the housemaid, the keeper of the house. And as you come in, she says, "Oh, sorry, sir. Would you like something to drink?"
Sorry, is that to me?
Yes.
Oh, right. Sorry.
I think you're the only one in the scullery.
Oh no, sorry. He was just grabbing his hat and coat, and then he was sort of like if anything is said to him, he'll just sort of like wave them off and head to the door. He'll say no.
Okay then. Yeah. So you head outside.
Oh no, actually, he will then, but then he'll stop at the door and he'll say, "Did Mademoiselle Ducray and Ursula come back in from their walk?"
I just said, sorry, Madame Ducray is sat. I said this. I'm sure I said this.
Yeah, I was doing something else.
Oh, were you trying to sort out your phone without looking?
No, I was actually answering a work email.
Oh, right. So I'll say it to you again then. So as you come into the scullery,
I hadn't even realised you'd gone back onto me. I thought you.
Yeah, no. So as you come into the scullery, you see Mademoiselle Ducray sat at the table having a cup of tea or some kind of hot liquid with the housekeeper, Mrs. Beddoes. And as you come in, Mrs. Beddoes says, "Oh, sorry." She sort of like gets up and sort of like says, "Sorry, sir. Would you like a drink or something?"
All right. So he'll sort of like look, and is there any sign of Ursula in the?
No, Ursula's not in the scullery at all.
He'll say, Did you enjoy your walk, Mademoiselle Ducray?"
She says, "Oh, sorry, I have not been for a walk. Ursula wanted to play in the snow. I think she's making a snowman."
Did you leave her alone?
Well, she's quite safe out in the ornamental gardens.
Are you not aware that there's a convict on the loose?
No, nobody has told me anything.
Good Lord! And he's going to
Howard!
he's going to open the door, and he's going to stride out into the garden.
Yeah, so I'm just putting you on the top map. So King and Bleaker, you can probably see Mr. Peabody outside now. And you can see from where you are, Mr. Mackenzie James Mackenzie is unplaiting the horses and manes and tails and sort of like brushing them out. And he sort of like sees you and sort of like waves at you and acknowledges you. But apart from that, there's nobody outside at all.
Peabody's going to be looking for footprints in the snow.
Where you are now?
Well, it's from the door onwards.
Yeah, there seems to be quite a few tracks going in quite a few directions. There's obviously quite a substantial amount of tracks going from the back door to the stable, where you are at the moment. And there seems to be some tracks, less so, maybe just one or maybe two, heading off into...
He's going to head towards the gardens.
Yeah, okay then. So you're just sort of like just heading around the gardens, yeah. So yeah, Mr. Bleaker and Dr. King, what would you like to do?
I guess I was just thinking about the acoustics of this building. I'd like to go back to the library to investigate and see if it's still a mess.
Yeah. So you head over there. Dr. King, is there anything you would like to do?
There was, but I can't think what it was now. Dr. King will probably go into the kitchen.
Yeah, so
Scullery, sorry.
Yeah, Madame Ducray's there, and the cook, and they offer you a cup of tea. As you come into the library, you see that there are two servants there, busy putting it back. They've done quite a good job at the moment, and there seem to be piles of books on the floor because they seem to be unstacking things and then putting them in order next to the shelves, and then taking them and putting them back onto the shelves. Yeah, Mr. Peabody, there's nobody in the garden at all. You notice that Mr. Mackenzie is sort of like looking out at you from the stables. What would you like to do, Mr. Peabody?
Peabody's going to shout over to him, and you're going to say, "Mackenzie, have you seen Miss Ursula?"
You're quite a way away from him at the moment, because remember every 10 foot is 75 feet.
Okay, well, he'll start striding in that.
So you probably sort of like get up into this direction, and Mr. Mackenzie sort of like says, I saw her down by the pond, which is number 5.
Was she alone?
No, he says she was with a young lad, I think.
Good Lord, did you not think to stop her?
Stop her what?
Good Lord! And Peabody's going to start almost running towards that area as fast as he can.
Yeah. So he still takes, because the snow is quite thick now. Yeah. What do you wish to do when you get down there?
Well, he's looking for any signs of Ursula or the boy.
Yeah. So you're
down towards the pond. He's also going to be looking for people, because he assumes that this is going to be sort of like less visited.
Yeah. So roll your tracking skill. You sort of like go down, and you sort of like you start looking at the tracking, the footprint, but you accidentally slip on the snow and sort of like land in front of them and sort of like have to push yourselves back up. They didn't look like there was a lot of tracking, a lot of footprints down here. Maybe just 2, but you're not too sure.
Right, and do they go? Does it look like they stop at the pond, or do they go lead away?
Yeah, you fumbled your tracking roll, so you that's the information that you have.
Right. Is the pond frozen over?
Yes, it looks frozen, and it's got a bit of dusting of snow on it. Number 4's the graveyard. Sorry, did you say something else about the pond?
No. It looks like it's also covered in snow.
Yeah.
Right, he's going to have a look at he's going to have a look at the graveyard. He's just going to make sure that they're not hiding behind.
Oh no, there's definitely nobody around in this area at all.
Okay, so looking off away from the actual the back of the house and the pond, is there any landmarks that stand out? Is there somewhere that they might have headed towards, or is it just all?
Well, hang on, I'll move you on to the because you've got.
He's looking on the assumption that they were
Can you
heading
see
off
that
in
now?
the direction of the
Yes.
Yeah.
that they were heading off in the direction of the pond. So if they were to continue in that heading off in that direction, is there anything on the horizon, or is it just all barren?
That's probably as far as you can see, isn't it?
Yeah. So nothing.
It just seems to be barren. You can see over on the horizon. I'm going to off in quite a way off. Hang on, let me just get my pointer. This direction, off in the sort of almost like southeasterly direction, a lot closer to Princetown. You can see like a tor, like a pile of stones. You can see another pile of stones on the horizon over in this direction, and another one over in this direction, and of course the standing stone for Hobbs Field is down in that direction. And I think, yeah, you can see just roll for me a spot hidden roll. Yeah, you think you can see something over in this direction. Can you see my ping there?
Yeah. No matter. He's heading. He's going to head back, and he's going to head back to Mackenzie. And when he gets back to Mackenzie, he's going to say, "Mackenzie, the gypsy folk."
Yes, sir.
Know where they camp out? Do you?
Yes.
Must do. You're on Bargrove's land.
Yes, normally over by Darkmere.
Where's that man?
Yeah, he points in the general direction. I'll put it on the map for you. I'll reveal the area so you can see where it is. You see it?
No, we're still on the other.
Oh, sorry.
The hall.
Right. Okay.
Do you want to be back on Bargrove? Yeah. Oop.
Yeah. So he's going to say, "We're going to be heading out there. Have any riding horses ready?"
Yeah. He says that they do have a sleigh. So there is a sleigh that they have for weather like this rather than the carriage, which will carry 8 people.
Get it ready, Mackenzie. As fast as possible.
He sort of like looks a bit. He looks a bit puzzled. Are you giving him a reason?
Yeah. He's going to say, I think Ursula may have been abducted.
And he sort of like swears quite blue English, and sort of like starts to ready the sleigh post haste. Yeah, what would you like to do, Mr. Peabody?
He's going to go back into the house. Or is anybody?
King's in the scullery.
Right. He's going to say to King, "Get ready, King. We have to go."
And Mrs. Beddoe sort of like says, yeah, Mrs. Beddoe joins in with you, Dr. King, and said, it's quite thick with snow outside, sir. It's probably better if you stay indoors in weather like this.
Good Lord, there's no sign of Ursula at all.
And at that point, Mademoiselle de Grey drops her bone china thing and sort of like looks at you and sort of like says, "What do you mean there's no sign of her?"
There's no sign of her. Last seen heading towards the pond in tow of some gypsy boy.
She was seen with the gypsy boy?
Well, that's what Mackenzie said.
What, the gypsy boy that was here the other night?
Well, how many other gypsy boys are there?
Well, there's about quite a few of them over at the camp.
Well, we're heading there now. We're just getting our stuff.
Okay then. So yes.
King, get me one of the rifles.
Who, sorry? Oh, King. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, and all of a sudden this commotion sort of like sets going in the house. Servants sort of like start to Mademoiselle Ducray says she's probably in another room in the house or upstairs somewhere, and she came in and we didn't see her. She's often hiding like this. She thinks it's some kind of a game. And they sort of like go off, and Mr. Bleeker, you almost like get this message, and that Ursula's gone missing, and you see Mr. Peabody sort of like ordering people around, getting them ready to go off in the sleigh. Carries about 8 people. You also see that the people are sort of like dashing around left, right, and centre if there's some kind of commotion. And Howard's there. He says, "Yes, shall I accompany you on the sleigh?"
No, we should be fine. If there's going to be trouble, you're better off here. I will be taking one of the rifles, though, Howard.
Oh yes,
Just
sir.
so you know.
Of course. I'm afraid there's no ammunition left in the box in the case. I'm not too sure where Sir William kept it. It seems to have gone missing, like the revolver.
No matter.
Right. Are you still wishing to take a rifle with no ammunition, sir?
Well, the mere threat of somebody holding a gun, especially...
Yes, sir. I'll go and get you one straight...
Enough to deter anybody.
Straight away. And
Peabody's going to go upstairs, and he's going to get some ammunition for the rifle from his room, put in a box into his coat pocket.
And Mackenzie has brought the sleigh round to the front as you all sort of like get on your outside coats, etc. You notice that Mademoiselle Ducray is looking whiter and whiter as servants report back that Ursula has not been seen at all. And Mackenzie sort of like comes in and sort of like stumps his snow off the thing, and he's just talking to you while there's a huge rap on the door, and another one, and another one, and another one, almost like in quick succession, as if there's a sense of urgency to open this door. And Mr. Howard sort of like opens it up, and you see somebody that you know, Mr. Peabody, because it's the Reverend from, I think you had the chat with him, did you not?
Peabody did, yes.
Yeah, you notice that it's him, and he seems to have a crowd of the villagers with him, and it's almost as if at first you almost like get this feeling that there's some kind of witch hunt going on, but then you notice that there's quite a lot of people crying, and some of them look very white, despite coming up the from the village, which is quite a Say again, sorry.
Is there any children with
No, and they sort of like it comes up to you, and the vicar is quite out of breath, and he sort of like Mr. Howard says, "Reverend, how can we help you?" And he sort of like says, out of breath, he sort of like says, "We've lost 4 children. They've gone missing."
When, man? When did they go missing?
"Sometime this morning. They were out playing in the snow. But that's not the worst of it. The outsiders, they've gone. Well, not quite gone. You need to see their cottages. You need to see them straight away." And he looks almost like worried, and almost like every now and then you notice that he sort of like just gesticulates and circumflexes and sort of like crosses himself, and you notice that he's got almost like a cross with him, a crucifix that he's holding on tight to, and there's sort of like women sort of like sobbing, and sort of like you almost like hear mutterings, and you could see almost like men, and they got things like axes and things like that, and they look very determined, as if they're trying to suppress their emotions and replace it with anger, and they're sort of like almost like bashing this axe's shaft against their hands. And Mackenzie sort of like says, the Reverend is really insistent that you see the houses. He's almost like trying to persuade you to see them and see where the children were taken from. And so Mackenzie says that he can take you down there on the sled. It won't take long. Do you wish to go and see the outsider cottages, or do you wish to head straight off, or is there anything else you would like to do? Or you can split up.
Okay, we'll head down to the cottages first.
Okay, so as you're sort of like saying, yes, let's go to the cottages, let's go, and sort of like Mackenzie in, all of a sudden you hear the voice of Lady Allingham, and she sort of like is up at the top of the stairs, and she says, she's almost like got a hand on her head like this, and says, "What is all the rumpus about?" And Howard turns around to her and says, "Oh, I'm sorry, your lady. It would appear that Ursula has gone missing out on the snow. I have heard that 3 people from the next village actually died out in the moors last winter. So we are trying to do our best to locate her at the moment." And at this point, you suddenly see Lady Allingham almost like snap, as not only is Ursula gone missing, but also Howard has just informed her that 3 people from the next village actually died on the moors last winter. And she almost like, she sort of like screams this high-pitched scream, and sort of like grabs hold of her hair and tries to start pulling it out. And luckily Mademoiselle Ducray sort of like goes up to comfort her, and Lady Allingham almost like backhands her as she comes close, and sort of like whacks her, trying to hit her across the face as much as possible. And Lady Ducray sort of like stumbles back, and she sort of like turns to her and points at her and says, "You've lost my daughter! You've killed my daughter!" Like this. And then she sort of like looks at Ducray, and she's then almost like saying to Mademoiselle de Cray, "You killed my husband, and now you've killed my daughter," and she just looks absolutely insane. There's definitely Mr. King, Dr. King. Can you roll your psychology or psychoanalysis roll?
Which would you prefer? Because they've got quite different points wise.
It's completely up to you. I'm quite happy for you to roll either.
Or psychoanalysis, because that's more what he's trying to do at this point.
Yeah, you sort of like look at her and you just think she's going bonkers. You think she's probably lost the plot. If you remember earlier on, one of the maids, I think, said to you, Peabody, was it? No, to Mr. Bleecker, or somebody said that she was tottering on the edge, and it wouldn't take much to snap her. And you figure this has snapped her. Anyway, you quickly get on the sleigh.
King probably won't in this situation.
Okay, then. That's cool.
He's going to stay at the house and he's going to try and calm her, and he wants to. He's going to get one of the servants to give the good ladies some laudanum in a cup of tea or something to try and calm her down. And put her to sleep.
You figure that she probably needs a little bit something stronger than that, maybe a straitjacket. But she's to that stage. So you stay at. So you won't know what's happening next. I'm not going to ask you to take your headphones off, but I'll just trust you not to use the information until it's shared with you. Okay, so the villagers and Mr. Peabody and Mr. Bleecker, you head down to the outsiders' cottages, and you notice that the children who were taken, there's 4 of them that have gone, and they went out to play in the snow in a similar way as Ursula had, and almost like then their parents suddenly found that they had gone. There's too many footprints around here to see anything, but as you approach the outsider cottages, I'll put you on the map so you can see, just remind yourself where they are. This one. You remember they're number 6 up at the top.
Yeah.
So they're quite a way out of the main village, and as the sleigh sort of like turns the corner, Mackenzie almost like pulls the reins hard and bring the sleigh to almost like an abrupt stop, almost so that you almost like get flung back in your seat, and you can see the houses and the doors are open, and the snow is actually a red color in front of the doorways. And as you get closer, you get off the sleigh, you make your way up there, and Mr. Peabody and Mr. Bleecker, you sort of like go to each of the houses in turn, and each one is exactly the same. The houses and the houses are just awash, and I mean awash with blood. And you also see what remains of the bodies of the outsiders and their families are almost like torn and been ripped apart and mangled as if they've been attacked by some huge wild beast. And it's a hideous, awful sight that, of course, requires a sanity roll.
Yeah.
Which Mr. Bleecker fails, and so does Mr. Peabody. So, Mr. Bleecker, this is your sanity loss. So, Mr. Bleecker, you lose 2 points of sanity, and Mr. Peabody, you also you lose 2 points of sanity. The other thing that you do notice is that in the middle cottage, you sort of like go up and you prevent yourself from retching.
Which one?
Say again, sorry?
Which cottage? Sorry.
One of the middle ones.
All right. Yeah.
I think there's 4 of them, so it's one of the 2 middle ones. And when you sort of like when you look into that one, you notice that there's something on the ground in the middle of the floor. It doesn't look like it's been tried to be hidden or anything, but it almost like looks like it's some kind of it looks like a stone knife. It doesn't look like it's a bladed knife, i.e. a steel blade or anything like that. It literally looks like it's a stone knife. Roll for me, either one of you can either roll history or archaeology. It's up to you. I'll accept either.
I will spend 6 points of luck to get a standard success.
Cool. Mr. Peabody, are you rolling or not?
No, you said either of you.
Yeah, I saw either of you.
Right.
You could both roll it if you've got the skill. You probably don't want to adjust it. So Mr. Bleeker, you think that the knife, it's quite weird from what you can see, and you sort of like pad in or wade in across the blood, and it seems definitely to be a stone knife, and you figure it almost like looks identical to ones found in Neolithic tombs about 3000 BC. However, the thing that is very clear from this one, although it looks like it should be from Neolithic times, it looks like it's been recently manufactured, recently chipped away, and it doesn't look old at all. It looks almost like brand new, and it's at that point that the villagers outside sort of like, you hear them calling down, and somebody has appeared back on horseback, and sort of like has shouted out that they need to kill the gypsies. The gypsies have stolen their children. You also notice that there's some shouts in the crowd that mentions Bargrove Hall, and it's all her fault or his fault. And if he hadn't done that and hadn't done that, this would never be happening. And there's words like revenge and burning, and it's almost like a frantic mob, almost like building each other up. And to be honest with you, even when you get back onto the sleigh, Mr. Mackenzie looks somewhat worried, and they don't seem to be addressing their hatred towards you or him at the moment, but it seems the popular consensus is to go to the gypsies that they know are camping out in Darkmere. And although you might be planning on going to, well, I don't know what you might be going for, but it definitely looks like there's going to be some gypsy burning in the next session, and we will leave it there for tonight.
Why do people always blame the gypsies if anything goes wrong?
I was just thinking that.
Why?
I think it's because that historically, and I could be wrong, the gypsies were traveling. So if you weren't part of the community, you'd be exceptionally an outsider, maybe.
Yeah, it's that sort of thing, and they're always seemed as trouble. And
I think the other thing is that they're also seen as almost like mystical, or very sort of like prone to folklores and things like that. So they, you have gypsy fortune tellers, and of course it was a gypsy curse that was placed. The curse of Bargrove Hall, or the Allingham family, was actually put on via a gypsy, I think. Yeah,
a gypsy horse thief.
Yeah, by the gypsy's horse thief's mother. Yeah, that's who put it on. Brilliant.
Cross one.
Well done. So we will start off tomorrow with Mr. Dr. King at the hall with the temporary insane Lady Allingham, and Mr. Peabody and Mr. Bleeker heading off via sleigh ride with the village mob heading to cause revenge on the gypsies out at Darkmere. So yeah, so just so people know, it's probably one more session should probably finish the session off, unless you all decide to go in a different direction altogether.
Like we tend to
Oh,
do.
Chucklebuck has left roll 20 already.
He's got his moustache off as well.
No, I'm ready for the stream to end.
Oh, yeah. Okay then. Chugs is waiting for the stream to end. So yeah, I would just say to each and every one of you, I won't waste time with announcements or anything like that. I'd just like to say thank you very much for coming along tonight, and please remember to be who you are and say what you think, because the people who mind don't matter and the people who matter don't mind. And please remember that anything that's happened in tonight's stream is purely fictitious, and there's no such thing as ghosts or folklore or murderers with stone weapons. Only remains for me to say, sleep tight everyone, and we'll see you next week. Bye. And let me just go on to ended. Right.